special edition. Today we will be talking about scallops. Are you all ready? Is that a yes or a no?
Yeah, scallops.
Yeah, we doing scallops or what?
Oh, hell yeah. I had
Oh,
two orders of scallops with creme de la creme bacon
oh,
with Vienna puree
damn,
and
the
a
Perrier,
Italian
bro.
custard with fruit. Oh,
Bro, do you hear
yeah,
that?
with lemonade, with rosé lemonade. 2 glasses
Damn,
of that. So we're
you
gonna
hear
tear
it?
up the town tonight with
This
C
is the
Band, with or
Perrier,
without
bro.
C Band.
Oh snap!
Yeah.
I don't
Shit.
think you guys understand. Once Moose starts clapping, you know what time it is, bro. Ah,
Oh man, we're
yeah.
finally talking about this.
Oh man,
Oh my goodness,
Moose. I
man.
don't really know where to start. There's like 5 things I want to discuss, but
Okay, let me
I don't
just
know.
say this. Sneed was impressed with what I showed him this morning
You know?
on the C band screenshot.
Hmm.
Uh, Sneed, do you want to pull it up? Or do you want to just talk about it? I think we could just talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a speed test that was very, very impressive. I'm not gonna say I'm surprised. Once I thought about the bandwidth and the channels, it all kind of made sense. Initially, when I first looked at it, I was like, dang, that's really good. But then I thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute, we're talking about AT&T here. Like this is what they do. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you got to keep it in mind. Like this is one of the things that I was talking about. Like I was asking someone, what are your first impressions about Verizon and their N77 launch? And they were like, man, I'm impressed. I think it's better than I thought it was going to be. I said, well, what did you think it was going to be? And it's weird because I think what ended up happening, Moose,
Mhm.
between the delays
Yeah.
and all that went into all that,
Right.
people's expectations were low.
Whose expectations?
Like everybody, I think what like if their expectations
Right.
were a 9, with each delay the expectations lessened. It was like an 8, a
Mm,
7. Like everybody was starting to kind of get down about it. So the vibe, the
right.
buzz, all that was kind of starting to simmer and people were like, is this really going to happen? And then
Hmm.
and then it came and it was like, wow. Like this is it. And look, my market doesn't
Yeah.
need N77 right now.
Right.
It will, of course, need it, and of course they're gonna build it, but I'm just saying we got a lot of capacity here. You could choose your carrier here and all that, but there are places where this was needed. You know what I'm saying, Moose?
Well, so I guess only the Reddit community and the power user community was really like up in arms about this launch because people were expressing, yeah, Verizon's people were getting it, they were doing screenshots. Keep in mind, Verizon was desperate to get the C band out. Like we're talking desperation, man. Like
You
if
think
you,
so?
I mean, Sneed, with your famous references, it's like they were trying to find an oasis in a desert, dog. Like it
Yeah.
was very dangerous because if this kept going, people were going to get upset. And now we're going to call a spade like we do on the channel all the
Mm.
time.
Mhm.
There are select markets where AT&T is exactly like that too, where they are starved out of spectrum, they are starved out of the CRAN, they are starved out of the in-building solutions. But there is hope on the horizon, right?
Mhm.
Now, we were talking, and I even talked to Zero Cool before the show, and I asked him, do you believe that what AT&T's strategy is doing is they're holding off until the multi-frequency radios are available so that they can do the one-touch strategy for all those sites? Because remember, let's just put a ballpark figure, Sneed. Okay, how much do you think it costs to go up to do a antenna plus potentially a backhaul upgrade if it needs a physical backhaul upgrade touch, and then the radio? How much do you think it costs per site?
Mm, what would you say, Moose? 50,000 for the
No, no,
gear?
no. No. Like just the truck roll, like they say, right? Like just to
Oh, the
go.
full thing,
Yeah,
front, back, top, bottom?
yeah. How much do you think it costs per site?
I don't know. Is it slightly over 100K?
No. I was thinking more
Ju-
like. Go
No,
ahead.
just the truck roll itself. It's like $3,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's like
Isn't it?
$5,000. I would say like five thousand
Yeah, but what
dollars.
about the
Yeah.
gear and what about the backhaul upgrade and what about the labor?
No. That's what I'm saying. Just the
Well, that's
truck
way
roll
more
is the
expensive.
labor. Just the truck roll. I'm
It's got
saying
it's
like 5,000.
look,
5,000 bucks.
it's more than 5,000. It has to be, and I'm gonna tell you why. These guys, when they go to a site, they could be there for days.
It's how it works is they've been on a contract, right? So it doesn't matter. To be honest with you, it doesn't matter how long it takes them. They're giving
So they tell me that they get paid
a
hourly.
set
How
rate
does
for because that set rate is built on a budget in their
Mhm.
contract that they have with the carrier. For example, if they quote $3,000, guess where their hourly pay is coming from? That money.
Alright.
So I used to,
Right.
I used to do that like when I was at Verizon. And here's the thing: that the C band launch. Whoops. Hold on. The C band launch. It was, we're calling a spade a spade. The C band launch was, in my opinion, better than the millimeter wave launch that Verizon had.
I
In
mean,
my
come on,
opinion,
man.
it
Of
was more
course
covered,
that's
way
of
more
course.
people.
Of course, that's easy, bro.
Yeah.
That's easy. You got a tower site that's gonna do
Um,
it's gonna take each sector and push over a mile.
yep.
That's a mile that
But
way,
for
that's a mile
AT&T's
that way, that's a different mile the other way, you know?
yeah. But for AT&T's perspective, they are, in my, they're playing like 6D chess, like as we said, they're going to be doing the one truck roll that's going to cover a multi-band radio that's going to cover the whole 3 gigahertz spectrum. And by doing that, they get to actually carry that right away, which is really, really nice. They don't have to
They ain't gonna carry aggregator right away.
do like two. Yeah, they will.
No, they won't.
Yeah,
No.
I think they will.
If their standalone core isn't
I
ready,
think
they're not
so.
doing it.
You don't think so?
No.
I hope that they do. I hope they do. I hope,
I mean, that
because
would be
the
cool,
problem
right?
is if you, yeah, but I mean, if the problem by doing 2 visits is that you have to do 2 RAN configurations, like one for the C band and then one for the 3.45. If you just do one, RAN configuration for the whole shot, it's a lot easier and more a lot better to look at the KPIs that way, and it's a lot better for the network and for cluster sites and stuff like that. So
All right, so I wanted to answer Austin's question here. Do you think Verizon will still go big with millimeter wave since C-band is on now? They said they were going to do another 14,000 nodes this year. I don't really know Verizon to be a liar when it comes to network deployment. So I'll take their word at that because they have followed through on millimeter wave. They said they were going to do 14,000 the first year. They did that. They said they were going to do at least that much in year 2. They did 17,000. And so, like, to me, unless they decide they're going to do a CapEx cut, I think they're going to probably do the same again, another 14,000. It's because here's the thing about the millimeter wave. It only matters if it's dense. If you're going to be spotty with it, it does nothing. It becomes a hotspot. But if you daisy chain it, if you cover blocks and barrios and neighborhoods and segments of urban cities and stuff, you can cover the people there. And when you got people that are densely packed, you cover a lot of people. So I think they'll do it. I think they'll match either year 1 or year 2's build, whatever that is.
So going back to what I was saying, right, Sneed? So let's say $5,000. Okay, let's just put it there, right? $5,000. Okay, and you were saying that you were thinking 5,000 sites would be upgraded, right? Nationwide.
For which
For
carrier?
the C band launch. It doesn't matter which carrier, just lay for the C band launch.
Okay.
Okay. So we're talking about $25 million just on the truck rolls themselves, Sneedman. Just on the truck rolls. Now, if you imagine this scenario where you just got told you officially won 40 megahertz of the DoD spectrum, you have 80 megahertz, 40 right now, 40 coming in late 2023, okay? Potentially even earlier if it's cleared earlier, right? We don't know if that's possible, but it might, right? Do you wait? Do you hold off and launch the multi-carrier 3 gigahertz radios? Or do you do as many as, fix the congested areas as much as possible using the first, like you say, first generation C Band equipment? But then you know that you will have to upgrade them later on, double cost basically, right? Because you're going back to the same site just to swap the radio, potentially swapping the antennas. What would you do, Sneed, in this situation?
I think you wait.
You would wait.
I think you wait. I think you have to wait. And in the meantime, you build the foundation of what it's going to do to help you get ahead at that point. You put together the pieces so that way when you do start and you catch the traction, you go fast.
Right.
No slowdowns, no delays, no hiccups. You make it happen right away, but you have to do all the prep stuff. Everything has to be ready to go full blast, because what you do once your head is down is going to be 100 miles an hour. You put your head down and you just do it. So as long as AT&T preps all of it perfectly, they could just be ready for that. And then I think we look at it like, oh, the delay was worth it,
So, Sneed, first, thank you for having me on.
Hey,
Caleb, good to be here.
Bro, I gotta do a class segment together. Oh shit, hold on, dude. This guy, oh man, this guy, the king of the king of the strip, man. I tell you, god damn, man. Oh my god, this man.
Well,
you got your beanie on, bro?
No, I'm in a dark, unlit room since we're not doing cams tonight. But anywho, as far as AT&T holding off on C Band, I have two thoughts on it, and I talked about this on the show. One is, and I don't know this for certain, but I believe AT&T was having a hard time getting hold of equipment. So I think AT&T's approach might be a little bit different from how Verizon's doing it at the moment, where they're just going to focus on the most important markets and do it really well. And then two, I agree with Moose when it comes to AT&T's one-touch policy, where for the massive build-out, I think they're going to wait, because they're going to want to just do it on one site, do it once, have everything lit up, have the carrier aggregation going, by the way, for the new spectrum they acquired, plus the C-band, and then call it a day. I think that's going to be AT&T's MO. Also, what's up, Pete?
Yeah, the other benefit of waiting is that as far as like from a propagation and azimuth perspective, we actually get to plan out what we call in the RF world sectorization. So it's not rushed. You actually get to plan out. You actually get the time, the needed time, to do drive testing. Okay, that's extremely important, and and site walks for new sites, or even mods, even ads like that, right? So it's extremely important. I think AT&T is taking the right approach. I mean, and the reason why I say this is because I think the DSS situation, for example, I think AT&T did it right because it wasn't rushed. Guess what? AT&T is doing the same exact thing with their C-band. I think it's a smart approach to wait, do a one-touch policy. There's going to be less RAN changes that you have to do, right? And it's just it just works better. I think AT&T is playing the 6D chess on this, and going to give Verizon a run for their money.
So more importantly, sorry, one thing, and I'll let you go, Pete. More importantly, too, out of all three carriers, AT&T is still in a position, at least for the short term, where they need that extra spectrum the least. Right now, the LT network is performing strong. Go ahead, Pete.
That's actually what I was going to touch on regarding DSS 5G. If you have strong LTE network, DSS is not really as important for load balancing, which the limited testing I've had with AT&T seems to be something they don't need to be worrying about with how they're managing their customers. I think if Sprint had deployed more Band 41 in some markets, we would have seen DSS 41 on T-Mobile for some time too. But from my experience, they've been Sprint was a little not eager to deploy, so T-Mobile skipped the DSS largely because they had a clean slate of spectrum.
All right. Well, I want to formally welcome the bearded dragon, Pete, as well as Dennis. Thanks for coming on, boys. Address the super chat here from Terrence. Thank you for the super chat, Terrence, and
Yeah,
appreciate
cheers
the
for the
generosity.
$10.
Yeah, thank you for the super chat. I do want to mention something, and this will kind of put a target on AT&T. Their 5G guy left the company last week, and then we get this news about C Band. I think there's something there.
What was it? 7 markets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 8, actually.
It was it was 2 farts in the wind, if we're going to be honest.
So Sneed and I were talking in a group chat on Twitter. AT&T deployed less C-band markets than Sprint did within 41.
Yeah, that's facts.
I mean, look, to be clear here, it's disappointing.
And Sprint doesn't own fiber.
It's disappointing.
They did in Kansas City area.
It's disappointing that AT&T didn't go hard on C-band like Verizon did, but I think the next year, like the rest of this year, is going to tell what comes next for AT&T. I think that for right now, at this immediate second, it's not that big a deal. But if they don't expand it by end of year to at least say the top 50 PLEs, then they're going to be in more trouble.
All right, well let's do this. I got a poll up right now. You guys can go ahead and get your votes in. So for
I
the
already
SMT
voted.
Nation, there you go. For the SMT Nation out there that are in the live chat, you can simply click inside of the live chat area, and you will see that there is a poll. And I ask a question, and I give you 4 choices. And I really hope that one of those 4 choices is accurate to how you think and feel. So go ahead and give me the pulse of the people. Is Verizon's N77 C Band a game changer? Your options are yes, it is red panty night, no, and then I kind of gave you the option of somewhat, and then for those that kind of like, I don't know, I've been seeing this a little bit on social media. No, T-Mobile is the ultimate. So those were like the 4 things that I could come up with that I got a little bit of feedback from people on Twitter and the vibes and stuff for like all that was going on. So hopefully you fall into one of those 4 things. Let me know where you're at with this to kind of move in this direction, and then we can kind of circle back to AT&T. I think it deserves a little more attention. But let's talk about the news of the day, the 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours that we've had this connection now. It's live in the CLE. It's in a lot of places. There are parts of the town that have contiguous coverage. Clusters of sites are done. I will say that they are on some of the biggest sites, meaning really tall macros, full-sized macros. I found some on some rooftops. So, like, they're all over, and they're in all types of applications.
I need near your airport.
Yeah, I don't have a restriction at my airport, so I'm waiting to kind of see when those sites get upgraded, and I could test those for you guys.
Sneed, you skipped over something important.
Oh, wait, more important, $5 from EM Tech saying if you got to wear red panties to keep getting Gigabit N77, it's a sacrifice I'd be willing to make.
Thanks, EM Tech. Appreciate it, man. I love
So,
the
Oh,
comedy, man.
jeez.
Thank you.
Dennis, what's important that he skipped?
Uh it's not just C band being live, but it's also what's also live is carrier aggregation between C band and CBRS.
All right, so that's another thing we could discuss. Don't let me forget about that. But you know, I have to tell you guys, I have to give my first impressions on the Verizon C band. I don't know if anybody else here on this panel, between us gents, we got Zero Cool RF, we got Moose, Dennis, and Pete. I've tested the Verizon C band. Have you guys? I know Dennis. I think you have, right?
Yep, yesterday I was
Okay.
testing it.
Pete.
I have an airport. I'm too close to Denver, and I have a FAA radar site in my city.
All right. So that's a no. That's a complicated way of saying no.
Yeah, this is why I voted somewhat. It's based on if your market can get it.
There you go. Moose, any Verizon C band testing for you?
I've been trying to find one in my usual drives. I'm planning on doing some more driving this weekend. Unfortunately, in the same areas that AT&T had their C band, Verizon did not. So that's interesting. Number one, in Dallas. Number two, since my immediate area is close to the airports, the antennas that are on the racks are just not on. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna have to wait on those for Verizon. But I'll see. I mean, I noticed something the other day, man, which is not it's not good for Dallas, because remember, it's only what, like 15-20% of the market share here. No, not even 20%, like 15% of the market share here, Verizon. So their priority is not Dallas, but there are spots that have them. There are spots.
Okay. Well, I want to share my impressions. I want to share the kind of the numbers I've been seeing. And Dennis, because you've tested, you can go ahead and tell me kind of your experience. And Moose, we'll move to the AT&T piece, and I know you can kind of comment to it. All right. So on edge cell, meaning the furthest away from the site that it still connects, I want to say the average is about 250 megabits. In and of itself, I think that number is pretty good for edge cell. So I was happy to see it reach, in terms of range, I was getting at least a mile, maybe a little bit more, some sectors a little less, but it's really a mile. All right. Does that mean that it's stuck at a mile? I think eventually we're probably talking about, typically in the urban setting, I think more like a mile and a half. I think 2 miles and 3 miles and 4 miles in rural is very possible. It feels very AWS like. When I connect to it, the way it hands off, the range feels very AWS like. Okay, so I'm going to stick with that. I have to do indoor testing. I have to do the propagation testing. I want to see how it attenuates, through these windows and people's front doors and all of that, and getting on people's couches, as Mr. Zero Cool would say. So, that being said, I'm encouraged by the range at launch. I'm encouraged by the speeds at launch. My peak speeds are approaching 700 megabits, and my average speeds are between like 450 and 500. And like I said, on edge, it's like 250 to 300.
I must say, from your experience, the range is better than the N41 at launch, but maybe Zero Cool down here can verify the N41 at launch was lower power.
I mean, yeah, it was initially, but one of the big reasons why your C band, there's a reason why they put it at really high, on really high towers. So your rad centers, your head of your antenna equipment, right? There's a reason why they did that. Basically, not just because of high power, but because the way the 3.7 operates when you're working with your, kind of get geeky here, right? Your horizontal and your vertical RF planes. Okay, when you're doing your parabolic wave calculations, you're able to shoot the wave where you want, and you don't really need that much electrical down tilt on it. You're able to shoot your RF, your 3.7 where you want, and it actually works pretty good. Even better than your AWS because of the higher power, right? So that's exactly why they put on high sites there for you, Sneed, and it shows.
So my experience with Cell Edge differs a little bit. When I'm on Cell Edge, I do not see those speeds, unfortunately, Sneed. In fact, Cell Edge performance, at least out here in Pittsburgh, I would argue gets to the point where you're better off just forcing it to drop down to
No
LTE.
way.
Mm-hmm.
No way.
Oh,
That sounds like AT&T in my market.
I would actually argue that you're better off just forcing yourself to drop down to LTE and then just normal AWS spectrum. I'm not saying it couldn't be an optimization issue, but that's what I'm seeing. And the best case in point example of Cell Edge is actually my house. When I came back home after I was done testing down in Bethel Park, I noticed that Verizon upgraded a site somewhere near my house where I was able to pick up 5G UC very weakly. But the speed and performance on it was maybe like 10, 15 megabits per second.
But it was connected.
It was connected. And in fact, on that note, that S21 that I got, Sneed, I actually unlocked the hidden menu on it for service mode so I could always confirm what I'm connecting to. And I could even force it to lock on to the band of C Band.
Dennis, what was your RSRP values? Did you
Yeah, it was minus 110 to minus 125.
What's
Very
the range
weak.
on that, Dennis?
Oh, jeez, good lord!
What's the range on that, Dennis?
I haven't went out to dry to figure out where that site is, but I'm gonna guess that it's probably at least a mile away.
Okay. Do you know how tall the towers out there? Do you know?
The cell sites vary. I mean, really wildly. Like I was making a joke with Sneed, but sometimes there's sites on top of like a Shell gas station, so like not that high.
Yeah.
And then
okay. So here let me kind of I exactly know exactly why that's happening. So basically, in order to get the handoffs are key. In order to get the handoff going from C band to C band, that's exactly why they had to get they had to put some EDT on there. So your range is not going to be as great as what you think it could be because they have to hand off to the other side. That's just wondering about the tower height. If you're trying to hand off from a low tower to a high tower or high tower to a low tower, it's gonna have to be scaled back just a touch. So,
but that's
there's also a couple of things you got to consider. Number one, I've been to Pittsburgh several times. Pittsburgh is very hilly and it has very dense forestry. Yep. All right, exactly so I'm gonna call it that way. I think the fact that C band is working from a mile, that's pretty exemplary for that type of terrain. I'm going to just go ahead and say that. And then the other piece of this is if you're forcing C band, then you are manipulating the way that phone is supposed to work on that network. It's probably designed to give up the signal and then hand off to a better connection to a better band that has a better RSRP and SINR. So when the phone is designed to switch, say for example, you're on Verizon, right? You would probably switch to band 5 if you lost mid-band, or it would switch to PCS if it was still able to stay on a mid-band.
I must say, Sneed, a lot of places I go, VZW absolutely loves that N5.
Yeah, it does.
But
it really does.
That's fine because in Pittsburgh, what I noticed is that Verizon does have C-band deployed in very dense clusters. So like using the example of Bethel Park as the example again, every site that I saw in the Bethel Park pretty much area had C-band. So for a solid like 3 miles, 4 miles surrounding Bethel Park, you were on C-band without disconnecting.
Well, what you could do to test that out, Dennis, is look at your PCI. Like, look at when it changes. If it's going to change the next tower, your PCI is your physical cell ID. So kind of watch your RSIP and then watch when your PCI changes numbers. And that'll tell you if it's going to your next tower or not.
Oh, I will. Okay. And also, Sneed, as far as forcing the connection goes, my iPhone was actually the first to notice it. I just got the lowest Verizon line active on the Galaxy S21 and was able to start playing around with that.
Nice.
But yeah, so as far as C-band goes, it's been really good in Pittsburgh in certain spots. As far as the speeds go, since you touched on that, I've been averaging around 500 meg. That seems to be the sweet spot of where it likes to sit at. There are sites where it can get higher. Like you were talking about, like the 700, and I know Carl's able to see like 800, and people in the community have been able to see a gig. But the sweet spot seems to be around 500 meg, and overall performance for me feels very akin to N41.
As it should. They're both mid-band, and they're both being hopefully in markets where they're well deployed.
I gotta say something in comparison to T-Mobile's N41. T-Mobile's N41 is much more capacitive. You know, like in terms of just overall raw speed, uplink, downlink. Today, T-Mobile's N41 is a much bigger difference maker than N77. Where
Hands
things are
down.
6 months from now, the way things will be a year from now, I don't know.
Well, I can
I'm
tell
just
you.
talking about right now.
So you know how we're carrying the N71 and 41 right now. Imagine this. Eventually, it's going to be carried to AWS and PCS. That's going to bring more capacity and put an even bigger smile on your face.
Yo, Zero Cool, you got to see the CBRS, the Band 48 carrier aggregation.
Oh, I'm sure. I know it's good. I know it's really good. That's
crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, and I know you're getting 700 plus.
No, it's 1.3 gigs and crap like that.
Hold on. Are you just talking about CBRS itself or CBRS with C Band?
CBRS with C Band.
Ah, okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Over a gig. Yeah, definitely. I just back to the T-Mobile thing. It's going to take some time to I wish the carrier ag stuff would be faster.
Right.
I don't think carrier ag right now is T-Mobile's problem. Like,
well,
I mean,
it's density, man. It's
density.
God. Density.
Zero Cool. I know my Pixel 6 recently got an update for carrier ag on T-Mobile. What phones have it?
I
know there's a MediaTek one.
The phone for sure. The phone for sure that has it. It's the S21 and upcoming S22. The Pixel 6 probably will get it.
Technically, I got it December.
Yeah, I mean, try it out and see if it's carrier agged. I'm sure it has it already.
It's not.
iPhone has it. iPhone 13.
Okay, yeah, that too. Yeah, we see the thing is we always start off with. Here's the rule of thumb: we always start off with the Galaxies first, iPhone second, Pixels, and whatever else third.
Pixels to the dregs because nobody owns a Pixel.
So real quick though, circling back to the main topic at hand, the most impressive thing to me about C-Band is the fact that Verizon is getting very similar performance to N41 with basically half the spectrum.
Yes.
That's true. He's right. He's true.
You just woke up the dragon, bro. Now the dragon's loose.
Hold on. I gotta talk about this. This is bullshit.
That's 100%
hold on.
True.
I gotta talk about this because I'm about to go off, man. Keon, if you're listening, I swear to God, man, I'm gonna come to DC. I'm gonna come to DC, dog. You know, I don't need the tickets.
How much spectrum total does Verizon have nationwide with C-Band?
Well, right now deployed at 60 megahertz. Once it clears, I believe it's going to be a total of 160-ish.
I think regardless, it's going to be faster due to the fact, to my knowledge, they have more Class A C-Band than T-Mobile has Max in markets for...
Hold on. Let me give a great example of this real fast, okay? So I have good news for T-Mobile. For all the T-Mobile fanboys out there, I have great news for T-Mobile. I can actually get N41 at my house now, reliably. In fact, they upgraded the site. Hold on. In fact, they upgraded the site from 60 megahertz channel to 100 megahertz channel, and it's carrier aggregating with band 66 15 megahertz and band 2 15 megahertz. Take a guess, though, what my end result was of performance at my house when connected to N41.
700.
500 down.
Nope. It was a zero difference maker. I still only get between 50 and 150 megabits per second on the download because T-Mobile didn't upgrade the backhaul.
Dude, at my
Oh boy.
place, the N41 with T-Mobile,
Oh, I
as
think it
fast.
worked a little bit of magic for you.
It's as fast as my Wi-Fi, but then I look at it and I go, my Wi-Fi is better upload.
Right.
So, for comparison's sake, though, Verizon with the sites that I was testing only had 60 megahertz of C band, and like that's basically it. Like that's what I was connecting to, and I was getting like 500, sometimes 600 megabits per second. So T-Mobile essentially had 140 megahertz worth of usable spectrum, and I was getting like 150 best. Verizon was
800.
What's
All right,
up?
so I'm gonna have to answer this one real quick.
Wait,
because
hold up,
this-
hold up. Okay, go ahead.
Oh no.
All right, so to address this, Ryan, this is a really important talking point, and this matters. Okay, 25% of T-Mobile customers have a 5G phone. I'd
Yep.
say at least 95% of them have N41. Like it's mostly all of them.
95% of that 20%.
Exactly. So Pete, you know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah, I was on a conference call this morning with 5 people, all 5 on T-Mobile. I was the only one with a 5G phone.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
the math is
that
simple,
that is a very small sample size. But if you consider on my
That new tower,
T-Mobile
that's going
account,
to come by the airport the new tower by the airport should help.
So
I have 13 lines and only 3 of them are 5G.
So here's what Pete is saying, and this is why his math is accurate, and I'll explain it. T-Mobile has like 108 million subscribers. If 25% have a 5G phone, and most of those 5G phones have N41 specifically,
we're looking about 23% total.
Yes,
people.
exactly. We're talking about 23 to 24 million people on N41. Okay. Now, Verizon has more customers. But here's the math on Verizon, and this is why I think Verizon and T-Mobile have the same number of customers on their mid-band 5G. Here's why. Verizon has 30, 31, 32% of their customers on a 5G device. 90% of those have an N77 device. Let's call it 28 million people. There's one more thing that's a problem. Not everybody on Verizon has a compatible plan. That's the problem. Some are on Starter Unlimited.
I mean, with
So that means
T-Mobile, Essentials gets N41. It's
right,
not
exactly.
good N41,
So
but they
Pete,
get it.
So Pete, here's my process. It's either the same or it's Verizon slightly more on N77. It's
Yep.
about the same or it's slightly more Verizon. That's my math. That's my process. If you agree or disagree, fine. But let's put aside and let's lay to rest the fact that people are saying that N41 has more users than Verizon's N77. That is not true. The only way you can make that argument is
In
if
my
you
market,
tell
they
me,
do.
Okay, fine. Market to market, it could vary. But I'm gonna give you this too. Prepaid matters because
Yep.
Boost Mobile gets access to N41 and they got 8 million customers, and Metro gets access to N41 and they got 20 million customers. Okay, now
Yep.
I don't know how many of those have a 5G device. It's probably small. It's probably less than 10%.
It might even if that than 10, since they've been giving away 5G phones that get the signal for the last year.
Okay, but even if give them 10% of them, 20%,
even if that argument was true, the thing that we're totally disregarding here is the fact that T-Mobile has over double the spectrum allocated for that slight increase. So the math still doesn't add up. T-Mobile at the very least.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to take it there. I'm just saying I'm trying to kill the argument
Yeah.
that nobody's on the N77 channel. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I'm hoping I have an easier time finding it than the millimeter wave channels.
There's a lot of people on them, and I'll tell you how you know, okay? How many iPhones did they sell in the fourth quarter? Just alone. That was it. Over 20 million iPhone 13s. Probably even more. 20 million iPhone 13s are in the market right now. And how many do you think are on Verizon and AT&T? Right? There's a lot. There's millions of people using the damn spectrum where it's available.
Most of the people I know with AT&T have the newest iPhone.
Oh, no, Ryan, I wasn't addressing what you were saying. These were things that I was seeing being posted on Twitter. People were, messaging me and saying that N77 doesn't have traffic on it. It's just not true.
I mean, even the iPhone 12 gets N77, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So, like, for anybody who was saying that or thinking that, you're not considering all the aspects of who's connecting to N77. Big shout out to Santiago. Thank you for the super chat, sir.
Now,
Big shout out to all the pair character jumping up and down saying number
I
one.
like how
thank
this
you.
restream tells you what the sticker is.
I
We also got $20 from Ricky saying millimeter wave is the only real 5G in America right now.
Yeah, Ricky's tough on that, man. Big shout out to Ricky.
I'm tougher
Thank
on
you.
Ricky. I say even with that spectrum open, we're still only on slightly better modulated LTE. We are not touching all of the first release features for 5G, not even close.
Yeah, but Pete, here's the thing though. With that logic, then when it comes to Wi-Fi, nobody's actually using Wi-Fi 6 because no client device actually takes advantage of all the features that Wi-Fi 6 offers. And
I have that argument with 6E. At least with Wi-Fi 6, some newer devices get at least 60%.
Right, but my point
you want some N41? I got some N41 for you.
We don't even have 60% of release 15.
My point that I'm going for here is like the networks that we have right now, I wouldn't call them LT plus because they are incorporating aspects of the 5G standard.
Yeah, they're migrating. They're in transition. It's still in the oven.
Like, sure, they're not fully 5G fleshed out things, but like even during the LTE era, which went on for a decade, we never really truly met everything that the LTE spec set out for it to be, but we called it LTE, right? It's like,
hey, CBRS
Yeah,
on
true.
Verizon is the closest we have to release 14.
So like, let's just put that aside for the moment and focus.
Wait. I still haven't mentioned my experience with the C Band.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Moose.
Yeah.
We're gonna let Moose.
How often did it cut out, Moose?
All right, 1 second. Before Moose goes, Moose, I'm gonna give you the floor.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Ricky, big supporter of my channel. Thank you for the super chat. He threw us a $20 super chat. So thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. Appreciate all your support. All right, Moose, run with it, bro.
Okay, so my objective when I knew the locations of these sites, right, was to get an idea from an engineering point of view how they deployed the spectrum. Okay, now obviously, right, whenever I have an engineering perspective, I always want a fresher mind, somebody that's in the field all the time. That's why I call Zero Cool and I collab with a couple ideas that I have in my mind. So a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about propagation and how this thing was going to go, considering that in my mind, I thought that this thing was only going to do 0.5 of a mile in my mind. Okay. And that's
okay. Now, what made you think that? What made you think that, Moose?
Right. It made me think that because and remember, from an engineering mindset, it's a much higher frequency than 2.5. Okay. So 3.7 gigahertz. Okay.
Okay, but Moose, what did the engineers tell us? How was it going to propagate?
Yep.
Like what?
But I knew from the schematics that it was going to propagate like PCS, but it had to be tuned up at a higher power in order to act like PCS. That was what we knew going in. So with all these assumptions that it's going to act like PCS, like it's going to potentially, the misconceptions that the higher the frequency is going to only propagate so much, that's all irrelevant. What ended up happening was honestly very surprising to me. Since I was testing on an iPhone, I couldn't force Band 77 to see what the true edge of that signal is. But I was able to test 1 mile, 1.1 miles away, and it still held very well. And what I mean by held really well was 288 on the down with 30 to 50 on the upload. That's decent. That's definitely good enough. One of the things that I think is going to happen in this next 6 to 8 months is that you'll be seeing the DoD spectrum being deployed. And then on top of that, you're going to be getting additional software upgrades, because one of the things that I've been noticing is every day there's more software upgrades. And that is unprecedented, man. How many times do you think a site gets upgraded normally? Like regular site?
Maybe once every 2 years.
No. Software.
It
few months.
depends. Are we doing software-defined networking, or
It's probably once a quarter, if I'm not mistaken, right? Real cool. Once a quarter, a software update.
some of the software can be done hourly?
Oh, Zero Code, are you still there?
Probably just staring at scallops.
Not an issue. Anyway, so yeah, it's like I remember when I was working at T-Mobile, it was one major patch, right? One major software upgrade, firmware upgrade to the baseband unit, and then there was slight tweaks afterward. But it was not where you completely shut down the site for 2 or 3 hours. You get what I'm saying, guys? It was a couple of minutes, an hour at most, for the minor ones. But
usually
it wasn't me.
Usually the updates I get are noticeable, and the tower is only offline for like 30 seconds.
But anyways, my point is that 1.1 miles cell edge connecting to the C band. It was downrange, and one of those 130 feet antennas, sites. Very impressed. I went into the 7-Eleven.
Oh my God. There's breaking news, Moose.
What happened?
Breaking news. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Breaking
Lincoln
news
Squirrel is
just
dead.
coming in. Airline CEOs make a U-turn. They now say 5G isn't a big problem for altimeters.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Turn it on then. Turn
Oh
it
my
on.
God.
Hey,
Turn
the
it on.
biggest issue is Omicron, not this.
You ain't lying, Pete.
Hey,
Turn it
I've
on.
been saying this since the election was announced.
Tell a friend to tell a friend that a friend and another friend. The airline can go to hell.
Some Moose.
Delta. Hold up. Delta CEO was on PBS NewsHour complaining about this 3 days ago. That's freaking PBS.
Yeah, what's up, Dennis?
So I have to ask a question.
I can answer that. No. I can answer that. It's every It's every 2. About just for a cluster of site, it's every 2 weeks to a month, man. Every 2 weeks to a month.
For software upgrades?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Shit.
So Moose.
Yeah.
I have a question on the software front. What is going on with AT&T? So, as you know, when I was in Vegas with Carlos, I was having a horrendous experience on AT&T. I don't know what was going on, but it was not beautiful. I'll tell you that. So, what is going on with AT&T right now, where their network is just taking a big hit from?
Can you guys hear me now or no?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes,
yeah,
we can hear you.
Fuck.
So, Sprint engineer.
I think that Dennis, the issue is that there's a lot of software tweaks happening on the Nokia side, and that is the Las Vegas market, right? Because remember, it was originally the intelligence that Sneed and Tyrone got was that Las Vegas was going to launch C Band in mass scale in Las Vegas, but that didn't seem to happen. But what I'm thinking is happening is this. There's so many different upgrades that need to happen right now that it's just a matter of, it's just time, right, that is needed, and patience. Because I'm noticing as I was at that site for about an hour and a half, I had totally different carrier aggregations every time I did an airplane mode reset. And that's on an iPhone. I'm not able to manipulate anything on that. But I can see that they are trying their best to manipulate the spectrum in the right way.
Yeah, but so I understand there's like software upgrades going on, but what I'm getting at is like whatever's going on that AT&T's been working on, right? Is stuff will happen. It'll be really finicky for like a day or two, and then all of a sudden it just goes back to kind of like how it was. There's not noticeably a change. There's not noticeable new carrier aggregation combos that I'm noticing. It's still the same spectrum on air. Like what? Like, are you able to share like what's going on? Like what are they trying to work with here? Are they trying to do a 5G core? Like what specifically they're trying to do?
Well, I mean, I think that from one of those conferences, the financial conferences, the idea was that this year all the carriers are going to be launching their 5G cores. But I have no idea why specifically you had that experience in Las Vegas, because generally speaking, the Strip and those areas, and even inside the hotels, they have DAS systems, so there shouldn't be any issues.
Well, if Carlos is still in the chat, he is my witness because we went around using his FirstNet line and other things to test AT&T. He is my witness.
Yeah.
After
The
I
FirstNet
left,
is interesting. I've been testing the FirstNet on Pixel 6 Pro. By the way, that was the longest setup process of my life. Okay. There's no way I need to spend 15, 20 minutes to setting up a phone, man. This is crazy. But anyways, that's besides the point. The point is,
T-Mobile, I get maybe 5 minutes of hold time and then I do it.
the problem is that like you remember, Dennis, the issue with FirstNet for us normal people is that it just clings on to band 14 at all times. So
as it's supposed to.
Exactly. Like I said, for us normal people, it's a problem, but for the first responders, it's not a problem because they want the reliability, they want the penetration, they just want to have the best experience on the lowest band. But FirstNet is not a service to be thought of like a regular consumer. And Sneed mentioned this a while back, many, many months ago, but anyways, I have no idea, to be completely honest with you, Dennis, why the issues happen.
gotcha.
So, Sneed, that breaking news you brought up, 6:13 a.m. Eastern Standard Time from CNN, the reporter says American and United both say the C Band deployment's fine with their tech.
And those are two of the biggest airlines, passenger airlines.
Yeah, I mean, there's Delta, but that only really impacts Atlanta, wherever flight's routed.
All right, man. We got a super chat. You want to do this one, Pete?
Yeah, Keon81 says, I know you're not going to like this, but we are starting to see a difference in networking philosophies happening now. We've seen that, in the 2 and 3G era too.
Bro, there's no such thing as a networking philosophy.
No,
There's you create capacity and coverage for your customer needs, and you want to do it with the least amount of capex as possible so you can make your investors happy. Please explain to me how anything else matters.
At the moment, we're seeing a divergence in mode d'emploi, but
On what?
mode d'emploi.
Is that French or
I don't speak French, dog.
Yeah.
See who play wee wee.
Method of deployment technique. So T-Mobile started by doing
Hey Pete, I
low
gotta
band.
keep it real, Pete. And you correct me if I'm wrong, dog, because you're the only person who's been riding with me since the first 50 subs. All right.
Yep,
We have pushed this layer cake narrative long enough. Who is the only carrier with a true layer cake today? And call a spade, Pete. Say it.
Verizon.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I was reading in the chat earlier that T-Mobile's excuse for not deploying more millimeter wave is the lack of
Check, check,
a.
check.
We
What's
hear
up?
you, man.
What's up, you?
Somebody said in the chat earlier that T-Mobile has been sitting on millimeter wave deployment because they cannot source their millimeter wave antennas uh, at large enough scale.
For T-Mobile, we actually came out with it's like a new baseband processor that's supposed to give you better throughput. That's on the Ericsson side. So a lot of the small cells that they're going to be doing is going to be on for Ericsson, actually. And I will tell you that they're going to perform a lot better than any Nokia. So if you're in a T-Mobile Ericsson market, you'll be in luck.
Well, me with a bent pipe performs better than some of that Nokia equipment.
I definitely agree. So yeah, they just came out a couple days ago. So it's I looked at the throughput is I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. The throughput is 3 gigabytes. Okay.
Hey, that's better than I was grabbing in that random location with
Well, I'm
T-Mobile
talking
millimeter wave in Vegas.
I'm talking about the actual max throughput on the actual small cell itself. That's the max it's capable of doing is 3 gigabytes on the down.
And that's a small cell?
Yes. Yep.
That's not bad for a small cell, in my opinion.
The
Right.
fastest I've seen on a millimeter wave small cell was 4.8 gigabits per second.
Yeah. It won't do 4. Sorry, it's not spec to that.
No, I'm just saying that's the fastest I've seen today. It was 4.8.
But that 3 gig per second spec for a small cell on T-Mobile for millimeter wave would do wonders in locations where they're having capacity issues, like in San Diego.
So
Absolutely.
Can we go back to that super chat from Keon, because I want to dig deeper, right? The philosophy comment. It's really interesting because I mean, I didn't know that we were writing books, so we're trying to look at different methodologies on stuff. It's the same like what Sneed said. We're talking about money, we're talking about deployment, and we're talking about the cheapest way of doing business. Because at the end of the day, this thing costs a lot of billions of dollars that unfortunately, not everybody is equal right now. T-Mobile's spending the least.
Yep.
AT&T, Verizon are spending a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard me, but the software updates are important.
Yes, we hear you, Kevin.
Oh, okay. Oh, for like a month, yeah.
2 weeks to a month.
Right, yeah. Believe me, I get bombarded with these sites are getting it, these cluster sites, blah 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 blah. It takes a lot of optimization and Moose was saying money, but it's the software. I always say it's software and hardware, right? You can't have a winning combination and one without the other. You can have the greatest RAN parameters in the world, but if you have crap Nokia hardware that you're dealing with, well, yeah, you guys know how that is. So
All right, so
pipe's
I
better.
want to address the Ryan Fraley's statement here. T-Mobile they have 39 gigahertz licenses here in my market. I think it's either 400 or 800 megahertz. I forget. I think it might be 400. The same 7 millimeter wave nodes have been up since July of 2019. There aren't more sites. There aren't new sites. There are no modifications. They're running a little better, but they haven't done anything with it, and they own those licenses there. There's nothing new. So, I mean, if their CapEx is going down and they're only worried about mid-band right now, does it really matter that they have supply chain issues? I mean, how do you say it's a supply chain issue or, they don't have, like, gear for that frequency? I don't think they're deploying it even if there was gear. Their CapEx doesn't indicate that they're ready to spend on millimeter wave because they don't own fiber. That's gonna be more expensive for them than, say, Verizon or
Oh yeah.
AT&T to build those nodes. So, it's for them, the millimeter wave investment is gonna be 20% more expensive than Verizon or AT&T.
Which is why I say we'll most likely.
Sneed is absolutely right.
Yeah, and that's why I say we'll probably see it in highly congested areas first, but they're going to have to do something before they're fined for squatting on the spectrum.
Yeah, because for millimeter wave, you need for the backhaul to be supportive. As far as we did we did an internal study to where internal capacitive study with the capacity engineers. You need at least, as you guys know in this stream, a 50 gigabyte backhaul for millimeter wave. I'm talking about mid-band, okay? Millimeter wave. Why is that?
Yeah.
Because it's a high capacity, high frequency channel with high bandwidth. You have to have the backhaul to support that. That's just common sense. And yes, it's gonna be so much more expensive, especially if you're renting it. If you don't own it, you gotta rent it. It's like playing it's like, what I had to pay, for in California, like a $3,000 apartment, right? So
Yeah.
it's expensive.
Yeah, that's a good example. It's prime real estate on a rental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With scallops, exactly.
With scallops every daggone day, bro. Yeah.
Ooh,
Hey,
if I
big
could
shout out to
afford
Santiago. Thank you for the
scallops.
super chat.
Yeah.
Said, did
Did
you all
any?
hear about the Apple versus Ericsson patent lawsuit? Moose did. I know
Oh,
that.
so I sent a message immediately to the group chat, and I was like, "This is a very big deal. Like, this is potentially earth-breaking, like, next levels." Let me put it into context for a little bit. And then, Dennis, you're probably going to ask a lot of questions, but if you can Google it, that'd be great. Right now, there's a massive patent lawsuit against Ericsson and Apple. And it has to do in regards to their RF patents. Ericsson is claiming that Apple infringed on 3 major patents. Okay, let me pull up the 9 to 5 Mac article that explains the different patents, because it's so funny that nobody's talking about this. It's like Apple lost. There we go. Okay.
So how many billion is Ericsson gonna get out of an out of court settlement? That's the real question.
So the headline is: Apple faces multiple iPhone patent infringement lawsuits as Ericsson licenses expire. So it says, hold on, give me 1 second. Okay. So there's a royalty infringement on the 5G patent, and the licenses cover 2, 3, and 4Gs as well. So that's a second patent. Give me 1 second here.
Really quick, can we take a look at this comment here? Pete, do you agree with this statement? T-Mobile deployed its 5G fast, easy, cheap, and sloppy with low band and able to get away with it. I don't think you could do that with millimeter wave. Do you think that that's an accurate statement?
I found their low band covering areas I've never had service before. So I'd say fast, probably easy, but not cheap or sloppy, because they had to set up fiber agreements in these rural areas where they were service deserts. And I don't know about sloppy. Most of the places I travel in the Front Range, when it was initially deployed, they were going up sequentially.
All right, let me ask the other guys. Let me ask Dennis now.
What's the question? I'm sorry.
Do you agree that T-Mobile deployed its 5G fast, easy, cheap, and sloppy and is able to get away with it? I don't think you could do that with millimeter wave. What do you think?
Yeah, I think T-Mobile did that approach of let's just try to get the icon to as many places as possible and worry about optimization and performance later. So yes, I believe they did it cheap, fast, and the easy approach. Because the hard, slow approach would have been them going to like a city and actually upgrading all the cells in a cluster instead of just having these little high-speed islands, as I believe Moose used that term at one point, that T-Mobile likes to do.
All right, go ahead and jump in on the Zero Cool. You have a unique perspective. How do you see it?
Man,
Okay, let's start with the first
T-Mobile
part. Is
millimeter
it
wave is
fast?
like sloppy seconds, dog.
Yep.
All right, whatever.
I have to agree with him on that one.
No. Sloppy
All right.
seconds. It's
Moose.
you could do anything horrible, you know.
I
It's
know.
just
I know.
it's not the right way to do things.
You could release N77 in 8 markets too.
Moose, go. What do you think of this statement?
Well, if you think about it like this, they were okay. T-Mobile, back when they were deploying N71, was desperate for the low band upgrade because their band 12 was so bad.
Wait. Was? No,
Well,
their band 12 is total crap still.
it's still bad, but the reason why I say was is because not many people connect to it anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like it prioritizes N71 over that, you know, N12,
which is a godsend.
but yeah, what I know for when that band 71 rollout was happening was that they tried to do it as quickly as possible. Now, is it the how do I say this? Is it the right way? Is it you know the worst way? It was the only way T-Mobile could do it.
Yep.
That's it. That's the only way they could do it because at the end of the day, they just didn't have the money, man. I'm serious. They didn't have the money. Now, going back to the Apple Ericsson situation, Sneed, this is actually bigger than I thought. It's actually 12 patents that they're infringing. And and apparently Apple is trying to negotiate a reduction of the fees, and Ericsson is not buying it. So now Ericsson is looking to seek an import ban on iPhones over the claimed infringements, both in the United States and in Germany and in other G12, whatever the hell countries. And then here's the opposite. So Ericsson's suing to do the import ban. This is where it gets into telecom very quickly, very serious. Apple is countersuing Ericsson's import of new baseband equipment. That is a big deal, Sneed, because even though we have an Ericsson plant in Texas pumping out millimeter wave, they're not pumping out the baseband units at the Texas plant the same way that they're doing it in Sweden. That's a huge deal, dude. If we get a ban on a new baseband unit equipment, we are screwed. Everybody's screwed.
Wait, Moose, back up the truck. You're saying that Apple is suing Ericsson to keep them from importing baseband units?
Apple
because
yes,
because Ericsson is saying they're not paying the appropriate licensing fees.
Right. Apple is going to countersue. That's what it's saying.
Throw that in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. It's going to get struck down immediately.
Ericsson's going to win that lawsuit. Just letting you guys know.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Hey guys, let's get to the super chat real quick. I don't want to keep it waiting. Big shout out to David. Thank you for the super chat. AT&T skipping 5G, going straight to 6GE, aka LT plus plus.
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta address the
What
other
should
thing.
change their 4G, 5GE icon to like 6GE when they get the C band rolled out?
Okay, we got a pull up, Pete. Does the lack
Yep.
of launch of N77 C band from AT&T concern you? So, with this question, you guys can cast your vote, the nation, in the live chat. Your options are yes, this is a massive red flag, or you could choose somewhat concerning. Then we have no big deal, and then we have someone should be terminated for this. So I
Can't
gave
believe 3%, about 2 people, said someone should be terminated for this.
some people are, they're pretty angry about this, dog.
Dude.
I guarantee you that's somebody that has a C-band site by their house and it's just sitting there turned off.
It's like this scallop dish. You go up, you put your fork in it, and you realize they're all plastic.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end this poll and we're going to talk about it. All right, here is the poll results. They will be up here shortly. What we'll do is we'll look at the numbers. You guys tell me if you kind of see the numbers for what they are, makes sense, or do you disagree or surprised? All right, so how much of a concern is the lack of C-band launch from AT&T? Yes, this is a massive red flag, 37%.
It's
No
like
big deal.
38 people.
No big deal, 30%. Somewhat concerning, 28%. Someone should be terminated, 4%. We had 99 votes. Okay, so Pete, where are you at with this, dog?
Somewhat concerning.
Somewhat concerning.
I mean, we got questions.
Right.
Is this supply chain? Is this cash? Is it airlines? Is it just like we think our LTE is good enough to stand on its broken leg? So based on the answer to those and ones I can't think of, what's going on?
Right. Zero Cool, let me get you in here on this one.
Oh man, I don't know what's up with this stream, but it just everybody's skipping. Sounds like
you on
Mr.
the
Rogers on
AT&T
speed
fiber?
with 100 sweaters.
He's on the T-Mobile
Just-
hotspot.
Yes, I don't know. I'm on the T-Mobile fiber. I don't know what it sounds like. It sounds so fucking horrible. Like,
Wait,
what's the
T-Mobile-
question?
Wait.
It's the poll. We got the
You're on
results for the
AT&T
poll.
fiber?
Okay. The poll. Yes, it's not a big deal. Okay, like I said before, AT&T is going to play in 60 chess. They're just going to do a one touch once they get the 3.45 up and be done with it, and then they're going to cream Verizon. That's what I see.
Oh damn.
Wait. Aren't you thinking about them waiting for the next 5G frequency midband cell? Just put that one up and cover all of it. You know, Class C.
I don't know. Let me get Dennis in on this one. What do you think of the results, Dennis?
I think the results are roughly what I was expecting, with the majority of people either thinking it's not a big deal or it being very minor of a concern. The timing is what's going to matter, as I kind of allude to. This year and what happens next is going to dictate what ends up happening for AT&T as far as like being positioned in the wireless market. For right now, it's not that big a deal because their LTE performance, even still, is performing similar to N41 and Verizon C-band. Now, as Verizon gets more time to really densify all of its sites with C-band and starts doing the cbrs aggregation that we've seen, which achieves even higher peak speeds, and as T-Mobile has more opportunity to focus on doing the carrier aggregation with their N41, N71, then it's going to get a little bit more concerning. But by that point, I have the feeling that at the very least, AT&T should be at least in the first 50 markets with their C-band deployment, covering close to about 80 million people.
All right, before Moose goes, do you guys mind if I kind of interject in this?
Sure.
Okay.
It is your show.
I say this is no big deal whatsoever, and I'm going to give my justification. Number one, they have been pumping the brakes on C-band since they bought it. They told us, how many pops they were looking to get. It was less than Verizon, at the start of the launch, and then after the first year, 2023, 4, and whatever. They were always conservative in their predictions and their guidance. So the fact that they even became more conservative just indicates that it was always their MO to be conservative. So to me, no surprise. They're also kicking ass in fiber. And it's really hard to get away from something that you just now are starting to see huge gains in, and it's converting for you. And they're doing really good with CRAN, and they're doing the FirstNet upgrades are there. And throw in that there is somewhat of a supply chain issue to speak to. I'm not saying that it's at the point where it's like, oh my God, they couldn't get a single antenna. No, I don't think it's that bad, but I think it is something that bothered them, because if the supply chain issue didn't exist, they probably would have had what Verizon had launched. But I think Verizon would have had double what Verizon had launched if there was no supply chain issue. So all that stuff I think is fact. Less of a focus on wireless than fiber. Supply chain issue was a bit of a deterrent. And the fact that they've been conservative towards it since day one. It just all makes sense personally. Moose, go.
The only concern that people should have is take a mental note of this poll. Because I'm going to remind you guys later this year, because Zero Cool and I are locked in step, and Sneed, we're locked in step with what is going to happen. The silent killer is not carbon monoxide.
No, real talk.
Oh, damn.
Real
I'm telling
talk.
you right now,
Moose,
120
hold up.
megahertz nationwide is going to kick some goddamn magenta booty all day, every day.
Moose,
There's no
Moose,
way,
Moose.
no how. Go ahead.
Hold up. You gotta tell people and remind them to make sure their carbon monoxide detectors have running batteries in both the furnace room and probably the garage, just in case you fall asleep
Just
with
in
the car
case.
running.
Remember
Right.
this Monday, guys. Remember this Monday. It's the start of a new era. Multi-gig, all this other nonsense. It's all
Hyper gig, Moose. Hyper gig.
hyper gig.
Moose, can I chime in on a hot take real quick? I love seeing that hypergig exists because it's the first meaningful upgrade that's happened for fiber in a while. I love that there's excess capacity there. I think it's awesome. But my hot take is I wish that AT&T would have took that money and just also used it to expanding fiber more, because they still have a lot of DSL footprint.
Yeah, that's true.
I would rather there be gig to more households than having a few that have 5 gig as an option, because realistically speaking, for residential use, I don't see a single Sneed, you're the exception. I don't see a single typical consumer actually buying the 5 gig tier. I just see that being nothing but marketing.
I was actually texting Sneed about this. I don't think he himself, since he's just one person uploading, can benefit from 5 gigs.
Yeah, that's. What if I was to do a private network, Pete, and get some millimeter wave licenses, some gear, put it up on
even
my
with
house?
the private
Then you
network,
could do that.
Maybe.
There you go.
Even with the private network, though, bro, 5 gig isn't necessary. You could do that with 2.
Well, I want to run 2 sectors. I want to cover the circle where my house is, and then down the street. So I need 2 sectors, and each sector is going to have a set of CBRS radios and antennas, and millimeter wave. I'm going to do unlicensed 3.5 also.
Yeah, Sneed. I'll hook you up with a mmWave license, bro. Talk to me after the show.
Yeah.
I fixed my streaming issue. It's my browser.
That's right.
Were you not using Chrome?
No,
What
I
were you
wasn't. I was
using?
using Firefox. Apparently I got to use
Oh, of
Chrome with this
course.
crap.
Of course. Yeah, it's because Firefox lacks a ton of the stuff that only works on Chrome, basically.
I know all the freaking open GPL bullcrap. All right, but
I
yeah,
love
I can
the open GPL. It's open.
too open.
But anyway, Moose, I want to hear your thoughts on my spicy take. Do you disagree with my sentiment, or
No,
am I
I
on the mark?
agree because this new era, like I've been saying for a while, it reminds me of the days when DSL went from 500 kilobits to 1 Mbps to 2, then to 5, then to 10, and then so on, so on, so on. I feel like we are in that same cycle again, where 1 gig is not going to be enough anymore. You're going to need 2, then you're going to need 5, then you're going to need 10.
I'm not saying that day doesn't come. I'm not saying that can't be a thing that happens. The bigger problem that I have, well, 3 parts. One is that realistically speaking, price is an issue. 1.
I mean,
2.
I have a 10 gig option, but I need to pay $250, get a new router,
Right.
get a switch, get new network cards.
Right. And even with the 5 gig option, you have to buy a new router, and it's probably gonna have to be enterprise.
Get a new switch,
yeah,
get
so-
new cabling,
so,
get
like-
new network
Yeah.
cards.
So,
Yep.
as mentioned, price is an issue. I'm not just talking about price of plan. I'm talking about price of the whole gambit. So that's 1.
So
2.
yeah, Dennis, going into that, if I upgraded to 10 gigs, sure it'd be $250 a month, but I'd also be paying close to $3,000 in upfront equipment.
More than that, because you're
If I'm only running 1 computer on it.
Okay, but yeah, so that's number 1, Moose. 2 is when DSL was getting the better example is when DSL versus cable happened, right? Well, I feel like rural America is even getting even further left behind. So that's number 2, and even suburban, like there's suburban places where AT&T only offers DSL still. So that's
Wait,
2.
They should get fined for that, personally, I believe.
And then 3, even if in theory everybody did get the 5 gig service as their end pipe, the rest of the internet's not going to follow suit anytime quickly. I mean, we're just now getting to the precipice where there are some servers that are actually being able to dish out a gigabit connection, let alone multi. Like,
Hey, I'm shocked every time I find a server that I can upload to at 250 megs a second.
yeah, even Google caps out at like 250 for their Google Drive. Like,
Google caps at 250 for their enterprise drive.
yeah. So, like, I guess what I'm going for here, and I know this is very against what Dennis usually stands for because I love progression, is just that this, to me, is nothing but marketing hype. Like, it's great to get excited about, but when I say there is literally 0 residential use case for it, I mean there is 0 residential use case for it. Like, it would be better served to have more people connected with gigabit connections than it is to have a few households that get 5 gig as an option.
Yeah, but Dennis, AT&T is the only company that's doing this, man. If not AT&T, who's going to do it? No one else is doing it.
Next light in Longmont.
Every municipal option does it that I'm aware of, and then also,
Yep, the 4 city-owned options in Colorado do multi-gig.
Well, I mean, not everybody lives in municipal,
and then
options like
Google
that,
Fiber was doing 2 gig. Comcast has 3 gig if you want it.
Sneed couldn't get city-owned fiber if he wanted to. He'd have to move.
It's illegal in Ohio, bro.
Comcast has 3 gig.
That's fascist, man.
Verizon, you can technically just get 2 separate gigabit connections, and then just aggregate it if you really wanted to.
So, I wanted to just bring up one thing. When we talk about this useless upgrade and it's going to cost more, I just want to remind you this, okay? We got the SMT hooked up with cloud gaming now. We have
Yeah.
the Series X on deck. It's coming eventually whenever it's available.
That's
But-
right, brother.
But at the end of the day, if you're exclusively cloud gaming or just downloading as quickly as humanly possible, right? You know, you're gonna need more bandwidth, man. I'm starting to feel 1 gig is not enough. Seriously, and that's saying something.
The fastest servers I connect to in this house on a daily basis, we have 3 people working from home, two university connected with high uploads. The largest saturation we can hit from those connections is about 500 megs a second.
I need 2 gig to watch scallops in
So-
HD 1080p.
So Moose,
Yep.
real quick. I'm not saying data demands aren't going to increase with time because that's just how it goes. But what I'm trying to get at here is like, in fact, Q4, I don't know if anybody saw Ookla's report this year, but for fixed broadband, I believe if I remember correctly, the average American household speed was only like 200 megabits per second.
Wow, that's high.
That's high for America, yes. But that was the average,
That's a lot of
okay?
DSL, and that's a lot of fiber going into that calculation.
But that was the average, okay? And that's and typically speaking as well, just as someone that has a lot of knowledge with how consumers tend to buy, most consumers don't buy the highest speed tier. They're going to go with whatever the most affordable option is, or like next to most affordable. Very few go with the highest tier option. So even if I was to be really generous and say every American was currently using 300 megabits per second, that in and of itself is already plenty for them. And I don't see it jumping in like 5 years' time to a need for 5 gigabits per second, because that is an order of magnitude's worth of difference. And as I've talked about before on my streams, there is a point of diminishing returns when it comes to overall throughput. Like, and that happens somewhere around the 400 megabit per second sweet spot. Like somewhere around 400 megabits per second, there is significant diminishing returns, with very few use cases being the exception. And those use cases, typically speaking, are going to be use cases where you're not even going over the wider web. Like when I connect to my NAS, for example, okay, on my local area network, that's a use case where having a 10 gigabit connection, 10 gigabit networking is beneficial. But
I'm actually looking into that for my NAS.
But that is a very special type of use case where even if it was an option for me to connect to some remote server over the internet, it wouldn't make sense for the specific use case, because latency is also a contributing factor when you're doing types of work that require you to go onto said NAS. That, like, I'm saying there's right now and for the foreseeable future, I don't see a justification for 5 gigabits worth of raw throughput. Any enhancements that would be more beneficial will be focused along the aspect of improving peering agreements, latency, and things of that nature.
So I'm thinking that if you do 4K cloud gaming, you'd want really low latency, and you might need 5 gigs down if there are like 5 people in the same house, each playing their own cloud game on their own unit.
Wrong. You're overestimating how much bandwidth cloud gaming uses by a lot, Pete.
I know the upload takes kilobits because you're basically sending deltas.
Right.
Yeah, the uplink is mostly on the server, so you're gonna have like a lot of server load. So that's basically where all your traffic is
Pete,
going
for cloud gaming, like I'm talking like at max, you only really need like 50 megabits.
Okay,
So
have you done cloud gaming?
Yes, I've used Google
Okay,
Stadia.
so this is why this is important. Dennis has been cloud gaming, so he knows. But here's what I know. There are moments when my fiber when it was connected and I was doing the cloud gaming, my machine was downloading 4 games simultaneously. And then it was multiple games back to back while running a cloud game at the same time. That's load. That's
Yes.
surge.
Yes.
You need a connection that can handle surges.
Yes, that is
Only fiber can handle surges.
I'm not arguing against fiber here. That's not my argument. I'm arguing about the 5 gigabits per second speed. And also, Sneed, in that surge, you're right. That is surge.
Wait. More important question. here is, am I a relic of the past? I have like 150 Switch games, 350 NES games, 120
No,
Super
no, no.
Hold
What
Nintendo.
we're
on, we're
talking about, Pete, what we're talking about is we're talking about use cases of future networks.
Okay.
but hold on. So your Surge example, okay? That's where your router comes in with QoS and makes sure to prioritize the thing
Yep.
that is latency sensitive and then allocates the remaining bandwidth to downloading the dumb file. That's where having a router comes in. So having raw throughput or a higher raw throughput, while it can help in that situation, doesn't necessarily, because in practice, assuming that your router is being as efficient as possible, even with a 5 gigabit channel, it's going to try to fill up all that 5 gigabits per second on downloading those files if you don't have any QoS enabled.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You wouldn't have QoS if you had a 100 megabit connection.
QoS is something you're going to want to have by default, regardless of your speed tier.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you're
I
not
would
thinking about cloud gaming, and you're not thinking about QoS if you have 100 megabit fixed wireless access.
You need QoS if it's like so QoS, the quality of service only kicks in when you have the bandwidth to support it. So basically like a gig, okay, or over for a bandwidth connection, right? Because if you think about it, that has to share the QoS, the 1 gigabyte bandwidth between all your devices, right? So, but segue aside, I want Donald Trump and 16K on a 5 gig connection. That's what I want. You hear me? MSNBC.
He wants scallops too, man. Bring them to him in 8K.
Zero cool.
That's
I
great.
actually disagree with you. QoS finds the most benefits when in situations when you have limited bandwidth. So you would actually, QoS is best utilized when it's less than a gigabit connection.
But by the way, Zero Cool, I have one better for you. I want to watch 2001 Space Odyssey in 16K. I need that multi-gig speed.
So this Monday, guys, all I'm saying is I'm buying a 10 gig multi-gig switch for my home because my entire house is wired up Ethernet. It took a lot of money during the pandemic, but necessary. Because Monday's the day. Monday is the day. I'm upgrading to the 5 gig, and it's only going to cost me $10 a month for the rest of my life.
Well, Moose, I'm happy for you, but give me, when you find a use case that could actually use the 5 gigabits of bandwidth, let me know, because I can't think of a singular one.
Well, I'm also going to be utilizing one of those, my other switch, my 24-port switch. It will be dedicated to a Cell Booster Pro. So I am going to be giving off some of that bandwidth just for the Cell Booster Pro.
Yes, you're going to allocate it, but like that's not
right.
That's not okay, I'm just going to really run this point home for a second. I have helped set up networking for companies that have had like less than 100 employees. Okay. Moose, take a guess what kind of speed these companies were providing for their employees to do their daily work functions.
It depends. I mean, I've seen a company run off of, this is going to sound so bad, 2 18 by 5s, 2 18 by 5. So they were doing what, 36 by 10? Dude, It was bad. It was bad.
Yeah, that's a thing. But in the example of this company, they were doing 100 by 20. That was the business cable connection that was offered by that local provider. 100 by 20 was able to support just shy of 100 employees, all doing their daily functions. And that company was absolutely offloading and doing backups all the while for mission critical stuff. We were using oh God, what was it? Was it a Cronus? No. It was some type of backup. I can't remember the software that the company I worked for had sold. But point being is that a company, it was a small, we'll call it a small business, was able to get away with that. Enterprise businesses, there are enterprises out there that still use gigabit connections. Some have 10 gig, but a lot still use gigabit. So to tell me that a residential customer is going to find any use case from a 5 gig connection when an actual enterprise can still get away with a gig makes it a hard argument for me to swallow. Like, I'm not saying that there's not an opportunity for a use case to be there to justify it, and I'm not one to march against progress. I'm happy to see it. My main thing is I think the greater focus right now, the more important focus right now, is to get everyone access to gigabit first off, but also affordable gigabit. Once that happens, then the use cases arise.
What you're saying is we should have more use cases, is what you're saying.
Basically, yes, and there won't be use cases developed for it until everyone has access to that bandwidth. Like cloud gaming only just now is taking off because internet speeds in America have stopped being such ass. The fact that the average is 200 meg for a download allows for cloud gaming to be a thing, and latency has improved dramatically. I know you don't like cable, Sneed, but like low latency DOCSIS had a great impact on reducing latencies over cable tech, which is the predominant way that people get their home internet solutions met. So until the benchmark is set where like the lowest possible denominator has risen in speed, performance, and everything else, we're not going to see the use cases develop for residential customers.
All right, we got to get to the last poll, ladies and gents. Get your votes in. It's in the live chat. Just go ahead and click in there. I asked the question, should T-Mobile be concerned about their, quote, 5G leadership with N77 now launched by Verizon and, to a lesser extent, AT&T? Get your votes in. Go ahead and do that now. We've got 64 votes currently. The poll has been up for 12 minutes. We will close the poll in 3 minutes and discuss the results. Get your votes in.
What leadership? It's a bunch of Zarg nuts, bro.
It is, yes, it is Zarg nuts on Planet Zorb. Yes.
So my vote.
Love Planet Zorb. That's
my vote.
Like an amazing name.
My vote.
Nanu.
My vote was maybe T-Mobile should get going now, because in all technicalities, T-Mobile is actually still in a decent position. It's a lot at this point. If T-Mobile just stopped expanding entirely and just focused on optimizing the sites that they have and just densifying in the markets that they're at, T-Mobile could be in a very strong position just by doing that with their macros for the short term.
It's happening. It's going to happen very soon.
Because Denver showed me what a good T-Mobile network can look like.
I believe the same thing. However, we finally have three-way competition in the U.S. So T-Mobile is well done in my area. That just means they have to keep trying to get that much better, because AT&T and Verizon are both trying to get better.
I have zero faith in T-Mobile in the Pittsburgh market, because I'm convinced at this point that the engineer that's running my market is a monkey with a banana.
He's an idiot.
Caleb,
Sorry.
Get him fired.
He's an idiot. I can't. I never liked even talking to him. Seriously. But anyways, I think competition.
Zero cool snitching out in these YouTube streets, bro.
I don't care. I think
Caleb, how good's the guy in my market?
He's actually, I know him. He does a great job.
Is he Jesus reincarnated, Caleb? Because that's what T-Mobile felt like in Denver.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I was actually going to go down to Colorado and have dinner with him, because he was actually on the former Sprint side, and he's the one that
I want to get that guy a beer.
Yeah, I can. Well, yeah, if you want to buy him a beer, I'll let you know who it is.
I will bribe him to come to my market and actually optimize the site.
Yeah, no, actually, me and him are actually really good friends. You know, we don't talk as much, but because we're busy doing other stuff. But on the
you're
Sprint
all
side,
the way in Florida.
I know that, but like
this has to be said, and this is why these conversations matter. I think that T-Mobile has the most variability in their market performance. Like, take for example, Pittsburgh is atrocious. Okay,
Cleveland is atrocious.
Well, it's better though. Like, it used to be atrocious. It's now competitive. I have to call a spade a spade. It's better. Good. It's not unbearable. It has a couple of problems here and there, but Pete, I remember what it was, dude. It was a joke.
Complaining about it.
T-Mobile might as well pack their bags in Pittsburgh and not even exist.
I can't say that about Cleveland anymore. It's 90% or better, than it used to be. It was awful. Like, that's sad about Pittsburgh. All right, Pete's over in, Boulder and Denver and Longmont and these places. It's good. People in Florida tell me T-Mobile's the one, you know?
Oh no.
I'm just letting you know that this is what people tell me. So like,
Smoking rocks.
look,
They
there's
can be
variation.
wrong.
Okay, West Virginia, it's T-Mobile country now.
That is true, yeah.
That's because it was Sprint formerly.
Yeah, but you
Hold up,
can't.
how the hell
You
did
can't.
that happen?
It's Chantel, but here's the thing. I don't think there's going to be real competition until after the 2.5 gigahertz auction. Then things are going to
Yeah,
really
because they get all their assets. It's like you're getting all your bullets going. You know what I'm
I
saying?
disagree. Already with Verizon C Band in Pittsburgh, Verizon is finally competing with AT&T, where it's no longer AT&T's no home bar. It's the market leader, and Verizon just and T-Mobile just kind of existed. Like just with 60 megahertz alone, I'm already seeing Verizon actually be a competitor. I'm not saying
they've always competed, Dennis. They've always competed, man.
Yeah, but I'm talking like instead of getting like an average of 50 meg, now Verizon has areas where they're getting like 200, 300, 400, 500 meg, like lots of capacity is there.
Hey, Caleb, can you answer why AT&T is a dead horse in my market?
I don't know. I can't speak to that.
But I'm sorry, Pete. Or I'm sorry, Sneed. Go ahead and say what you were saying. I'm sorry. That was bad of me.
I see a lot of variability in the T-Mobile network in these regions, and I look at AT&T, I feel like they're pretty balanced. Most of the markets, wherever they've done their upgrades, AT&T is phenomenal. And then Verizon is the same situation. If it's a band 13 only site, it's rough. It's rough. Wherever they haven't upgraded a site since 2011, that's a tough situation. Those and in some cases, AT&T may have just upgraded, and T-Mobile maybe hasn't even finished building sites out there, because some of those places, man, you got like 500 people over 2-3 hours of driving, and people are like, "Yo, where are our tower sites?" Like, there's 300 of you out there. What do you mean? You got 500 people in your county. You want 10 tower sites?
No, you got one N71 tower.
Hold on. We got to call a spade real quick. Even the band 13, band 66 only sites from Verizon aren't acceptable because the performance, like I said, is like 50 meg with those.
Okay, so what's the problem then? They either have too much traffic on them because the other two carriers don't have coverage, or it's time for a damn upgrade. I'll call a spade, but I'm just saying, if the other two carriers had built towers at the same time as Verizon, we wouldn't be having these conversations right now, because Verizon would have already gone back and upgraded because they would have lost business.
Yep.
I'm in an area to where Verizon and T-Mobile are putting a tower right near me. Am I upset that it's not done yet? Yeah. Can I do anything about it? Verizon side, no.
Dude, the reason why I have such an upset nature with T-Mobile is because they are the loudest of the carriers. Like AT&T, the reason why I give them a little bit of slack, right, is because when we were talking about C-band deployment, right, as Sneed mentioned, AT&T wasn't going out there being like, yeah, we're going to have nationwide C-band all over the market, fastest 5G. No, they're quiet. They don't say much. In fact, they act very corporate-esque, which for better or worse, that's what they do, right? Verizon, right? I'm not saying they don't get in it with their marketing gimmicks. So they definitely pulled some stuff with the mmWave that was pretty much non-existent on the coverage map, and their 5G NSA was pretty rough. But like, at least if you have bars on the phone, it's probably going to work. T-Mobile literally can't even get the most basics of basic functionality right in Pittsburgh. I mean, literally the fact that you can't have a stable phone call in 2022 is an atrocity beyond all atrocities. Forget having a network built on data. You can't even make a freaking phone call. Well, and I know that I'm old school using my phone for calling, but like, to me, that's the most basic functionality of a cell phone network. Being able to place calls, being able to place text. And T-Mobile came and nail that down. And I know we beat that topic like a dead horse here. You're going to tell me about the changes
guy being
and
a
stuff.
putz.
But that's my problem with T-Mobile, is that they can't even get the basics down. And it makes me mad that they have so much potential. They have the most spectrum.
All right. All that is valid. I think everybody's been able to acknowledge those things, Dennis. It's warranted. You're right. A lot of those things are very true. All right, David chimes in. Verizon is wasting no time. They're not just celebrating their C-band launch and calling it a day. I'm seeing sites being upgraded on the daily, not stopping. And that reminds me a lot of what T-Mobile did with N41. Yeah, they did the whole thing, right? We're launching mid-band. They did like an event and they hit the button and all that. But they actually did build a lot of sites. And this is something I wanted to speak to.
I'm getting
You guys,
constant site upgrades still.
well, check this out, Pete. Here's the math on this. You remember early on, Neville said we were getting 800 new sites a week when N41 first launched?
Yeah, and then he stopped talking about it.
So what does that mean, Pete?
They're either under 800, they're at the status quo, they plummeted. Could be a bunch of things. Basically, they don't feel like talking about it.
Personally, I think they're probably at half of that right now. They're probably upgrading 400 or less per week. But that's fine. You weren't going to be able to keep that pace. Your CapEx would have been $30 billion.
Yep.
You know, so you weren't going to keep that. They were probably spending $1 billion a month for the first, 8 months. They probably blew their whole freaking CapEx in 8 months instead of a year.
Hey, Sneed, if you want to check the private chat, I actually have that for you.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be sweet.
On a side note, can we address Christopher Gee's most recent comment?
Yeah, sure. We'll get to it. I just want to try to get to a few more of these. Teddy, I'm with you. I can't wait to see the N41. For capacity's sake, the N41 combo sounds amazing. For the coverage sake, I think the N41 N71 addresses more of what T-Mobile needs, which is coverage and edge cell connectivity. So
yeah, and let's call a spade a spade. Verizon builds 3 times as many towers as what T-Mobile does.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No argument. They do.
all right, Pete, I will say, though, the one thing I do want them to fix, because I just got done talking to Nikki. Bro, I talked to him for 20 miles. I was on the freeway. I just done some C-band testing. And it's true. The T-Mobile calling is still jacked up, bro. The call quality, every time I did a tower handoff, he's like, you broke up. Say that again. Every single time I changed towers. So I don't know what they're doing here with the calling, but it ain't great. It didn't drop. It just broke up, you know?
What's up? The T-Mobile quality steps up when they're finally able to do VONR.
Oh, that would be huge.
But that's not going to be till 2023, unfortunately, gents.
So I'll start using my T-Mobile for calling in 2023.
So wait,
that's the launch. I'm telling you, it's 2023.
Can you explain to me how voice over NR is going to dramatically improve T-Mobile's call performance?
I don't see how that changes the tower site.
Here's the thing. If they don't, I'm going to put this in the most simplest terms that everybody can understand on this channel. If you do not have density, your VONR will not work. It will not work. It will cease to. It will turn to shit. It will sound like it. That's what it will sound like. Okay. If you don't have density, especially over high capacity bands, even N41, it won't work worth a shit.
Yeah.
So short answer is it actually doesn't change anything.
It will if you have density. Yeah, it'll be great. Just not like how it will be on Verizon. Verizon's going to have the advantage over VoLNR. Why? Because of density. Why? Because of good optimization. Why? Because of C band. C band's going to be huge in VoLNR. Okay.
What if T-Mobile decides, okay, we're going to backtrack. We're going to do these small cells, man. Does that change things?
No, because they're so far behind. And then because they decon 50,000 Sprint small cells. All my work is
gone. I
just
got demonetized. It's over, bro.
It's gone, bro. Like, there was so many Sprint small, especially out in California. You know that. Like,
that's the only way you can make phone calls on Sprint. Good job, by the way.
And they're gone. Why? I mean,
you guys are gonna love this. I found an N41 small cell in Cleveland on a side street.
Is it off?
No, it's on, bro. Wow. It's doing 400 megabits. It works for 2 blocks.
Could your speed cap with N41 be the fact you're only connecting to small cells?
It's the only small cell I've ever found that's newer. All the other ones are old, haven't been upgraded in a while.
If you want to talk about true competition, by the way, Sneed, there's only one market in the U.S. that actually has true network parity and true network quality.
Don't say New York.
I was going to say it's New York.
No, he's right. It's actually two markets. It's New York and Los Angeles.
Number one and number two in that order for the entire market, every single carrier.
They're the only two markets in the U.S. where we actually have true network like parity and quality, because every other market in the U.S. tends to have one true dominant player with like maybe a scrappy underdog. But
no,
there's
you can choose your carrier here based on pricing. You're getting mostly, I mean, Verizon's got a little bit better density than the other two, and that helps with tower handoffs and uplink. But
so Sneed, hopefully people saw that video today with the new Verizon business plans.
Yeah, yes. What'd you think of those, Pete? You like those data device plans?
Hey, those are good. I hope they push T-Mobile for business unlimited, getting unlimited hotspot.
Isn't that nice, bro?
Yeah.
So if they densify, like Zero Cool's been saying, and you're always on ultra wideband, you're always going to have unlimited hotspot and tethering.
Yep. I'd like to see that on T-Mobile with their
You could make the
Cadillac
business use case
plan
to have unlimited hotspot and tethering on business, right, Pete?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sometimes in business, I go through 20 gigs a day.
Exactly. You know, and just not having any type of restriction gives you confidence in that your carrier is ready to meet your needs.
Yeah, so. I mean, there's this one location I do work periodically. Their Wi-Fi is crap. Can't get an Ethernet connection. Even if I did, their Ethernet's crap. The N41, though, beaming in through the window, I get 400 down.
All right, RFK made the call. He wanted me to close the poll. We got over 100 votes, 103. Should T-Mobile be concerned about their 5G leadership with N77 launched by Big Red and Big Blue? 47% said yes, the 5G window is closed. 45% said maybe T-Mobile should get the going. And then 6% said no, T-Mobile is the ultimate, man. Go ahead, Pete.
Hey, I think I already talked on this. T-Mobile with their N41, damn good. Verizon, the markets with their N77, damn good. As long as they're not complacent with their buyout advantage and where they built out, they keep going. Doesn't matter if Verizon and AT&T are doing well with their build outs too.
So Pete,
the best result is you get 3 competitive carriers with 3 damn good services.
So Pete, tell me something, man. How in the world, in an industry with 3 competitors, how in the world does any of the 3 lose?
You only lose when you stop.
Exactly. So like if you're an operational form of whatever, like you open your doors, people come in your stores, buy phones and service, and you keep your towers from being congested, and you build new ones as the coverage is able to be built. Like you're always going to be there. There's only 3 competitors, 3 options. Like think about it, bro.
Hey,
even
I
prepaid,
and
MVNO, Pete, they eventually end up on these 3 carriers.
Yep. I love the fact I went through Southeast Utah this summer and didn't lose a 71 connection.
All right,
that's everybody winning.
So I got to get Moose in here though on this one. All right. Yes, the 5G window is closed. Moose, 47%. What's your take, man?
As soon as I saw it from my own eyes, I knew it was over. I mean, come on, man. I tested it myself, and I saw 550 on average.
40 megahertz.
40 megahertz. with 25 gig backhaul. It's over. There's no way. It's done. And I'll tell you why. It's not because of this issue or, hating or whatever. It's just facts, man. It's just facts. It's too expensive to lease 25 gig backhaul. This year, if T-Mobile does not do a merger with Lumen, they are screwed.
So I had a first interview with Lumen recently, and I attended their stocks. Let's see what happens.
All right.
So there's two comments that I've been wanting to touch on now for a little bit, and they're kind of important. One is from Christopher Gee. He commented 2150 if you're looking at the restream.
Okay.
He says T-Mobile only pays attention to the most wealthiest states, which is an intelligent strategy. To that comment, I highly disagree for what T-Mobile is for three main reasons. One is that, unfortunately, for better or worse for T-Mobile does not carry a premium brand reputation like how Verizon did for the longest time when it comes to mindshare. So them trying to win over the most premium of premium customers is not the move for them.
No, premium customers want that AT&T LTE.
No. Premium customers want an experience across the country, not just in one location. Two, is that T-Mobile doesn't actually pay attention to the wealthiest states. In fact, the best places that I've seen T-Mobile perform the best in have tended to be lower income areas.
I'd like to, at some point, see how their Mississippi build's going firsthand, but that would require me to go down to Mississippi.
Okay. Yeah. We got to address this too, man. Dennis, let me know when you're ready, man.
All right, send, man. Send.
That's fine. I can get the other one from Ryan later. That's fine. Go ahead.
Wait, right. Didn't we already do that?
Yes.
Okay. 30-minute mark.
No radio. You are my boy. You are also wrong. Let me tell you something, dog. Here's the math. T-Mobile has 109 million customers. Verizon has almost 130 million customers. T-Mobile has 25% adoption rate of a 5G phone. Most of those, maybe 95% of them, have N41. Verizon has 32% of their customers on a 5G phone. 90% of those have N77 capability. According to that math, more people have a compatible 5G device on Verizon for N77 than T-Mobile with N41. There is one thing that closes that gap and makes it more even, and that is Metro, because they do have free 5G phones. And probably all the phones within the last year have been N41 compatible. So I think that closes the gap. It's either very, very close or like 5% more phones on Verizon. That's my math, okay? So let's call it equal. There's an equal number of Verizon customers with N77 connectivity and N41 for T-Mobile. I don't see it any other way because I'm assuming that 1 in every 5, and that's being generous, 1 in every 5 Metro customers has an N41 phone. Pete, are you with me on that?
Yep.
And then 1 in every 5 T-Mobile postpaid customers has an N41 phone.
I'd say anecdotally, yes. I haven't seen the raw numbers, but that's my experience.
So, Pete, does 1 in every 5 Verizon postpaid customers have an iPhone 13 generation or 12 generation or Galaxy S21 generation?
I could see that.
See, that's my process. That's what I'm saying. Because if I'm off, I need you guys to tell me.
I think, I think there is more N41 phones. And I will say this is because the first phone that actually, I'm trying to think, it was actually the Galaxy S6, Guess what? That was a tri-band phone. Tri-band phones had the N40. Excuse me, I'm talking about back in the Sprint days. Tri-band phones had the band 41. It had 800 and it had 1900. That was the tri-band phone, and that was the big selling point about those phones.
Oh yeah.
But then
Okay, so
Verizon ran that broken phone trade in, and then they were paying people $1,000 a switch, and then they had the big quarter, right, where they big for Verizon standards, they added 240,000 subs. You know,
Massive for Verizon.
seriously, bro.
yeah, I just think there's way more N41 phones out there that people.
I think it's close.
Even if, and I said this earlier, even if that sentiment was true, T-Mobile has over double the spectrum, over double. So, like, if we're looking at it from a spectrum per customer basis that can use it, Verizon still has less spectrum on air per customer and is getting better performance.
You guys think about it, every phone T-Mobile sells has N41 on it, or has 41, some LTE or N41 on it, every freaking phone.
Yep, it's been that way since, what is it, 2017, 2018?
Yeah.
N41 phones didn't come out until 2018.
Either LTE or N41.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Let's be honest.
I am being honest.
Will you take me on a bet? I will bet a pound of scallops. I will have it delivered to your door. I will bet a freaking pound of scallops that we will not see a congested N77 site this year. And I will also say, by the time B and C block clears, we'll never see a congested N77 site.
I'll take that bet.
I am not going to take that bet because I know exactly what that frequency and bandwidth can do. So
exactly,
I'll take that bet on the lead side.
And then what do? They also put CBRS on those sites and millimeter wave.
Exactly,
I mean, these bands are not going to get congested if you do that type of a build. Congested, like buffering video.
This goes back to what I'm saying about AT&T strategy. Okay, N41 congested, not just due to density. Okay, but because you can't just force everybody on one stinking huge swath of bandwidth and expect it to actually work. This is why you need multiple carriers, multiple bands. This is why AT&T's approach is right. Sneed, you just said it yourself, CBRS and C band and carrier act with the you can even do that with LTE as well, right? So, and millimeter wave. This is why having multiple frequency bands is so important, with your carrier aggregation. That guarantees you that's never going to be congested.
Okay, so I want to give you this anecdote, okay? Because I was at the busiest off-ramp in the entire county 2 days ago. The busiest intersection. It has 8 lanes of traffic. 8. There's the biggest mall in the county. There's a Costco, a Target. There's a hotel. There's just it is absurd. The C band site was doing 500 megabits.
To add to what Sneed is saying,
Exactly.
Bethel Park.
Most of the people were at the Costco too.
To add to what Sneed is saying, Bethel Park also has one of the nicest malls, so there's lots of people there. There's numerous enterprise businesses also within the vicinity, and it's right along 2 of the most major highways in Pennsylvania. And I was getting 500 meg.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, guys, having the extra frequency sets is the equivalent of having an extra lane on the highway. That's exactly what it is.
Well, I know where you're going, but you're not technically correct.
You know what I mean, though. Okay, having the ability to think about it, your bandwidth can only take so many. So it comes down to this: your bandwidth and your baseband, your digital media, can only take so many users. So you factor those 2 in. If your radio is congested, on one frequency set, of course, what the radio is actually programmed to do is move other people onto different frequency bands. If they're in range, right? If they have good RSRP and good what we call what we call P cell range. Okay, that's primary cell range, or we have S cell range, which is secondary.
So Zero Cool, can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I tested a site yesterday and I got a video on this. It's coming out. I'll probably drop it Sunday morning or Sunday
Mhm,
afternoon.
mhm.
I tested a Verizon site that had a CBRS, a millimeter wave, and a C band, and all of it was live. And I was only connecting the C band.
That depends.
When I
I
turned
mean,
it into LTE, it connected to the CBRS, but it
yeah, I mean,
defaulted to the C band. It did not default to the millimeter wave, even when I was within a couple of 100 feet.
it depends on your RF configuration.
Yeah,
See,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It all
Yeah.
depends on our configuration. It depends on a lot of things. It's not just don't guys. There's hundreds of RF parameters, right? But when it comes to okay, when it comes to congestion, if your tower has a lot of congestion, the RF parameters, the RAM parameters that we put in there, basically will force other UEs, user equipment, to go on other bands if able. If able.
Yep.
Okay. And that's just how it is. Now, if it's only you on the site, well, you're gonna have the default RF configuration that's going to be applied.
Facts.
Um,
Yeah, big facts. Right.
so it's there's there's hundreds and hundreds of like I said, RAM parameters we put in there to get it to where it is today, and how
Yo, Zero Cool. I can't wait to throw it in your face because I know you're gonna give me examples where I'm gonna be wrong. You do that. You've done that many times. You've proven me wrong many times. But
That's
I
what
just
we
want to
love
say
about them,
I'm
Sneed.
gonna win once, and I know where I'm gonna win.
you still owe
I'm
me
gonna show
scallops from last
you.
year.
Listen, I'm gonna show you when AT&T's 7 carrier aggregation will not be as good as Verizon's deep channels. I'm gonna have wins in that. I
Okay.
feel really good about it. You know.
And this is after the 2.5 and after the 3.1. That's what you still think?
I mean, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna I'm
Huh.
gonna I'm gonna try to prove you wrong, bro. I think those deep channels from Verizon are gonna be more meaningful than
You
the
better you,
several carrier aggregation
you better
setups.
bring a boat of scallops, my friend.
Whatever.
Because what's so if you think
I
about
think the tower density is more important. If there's priorities in
let me
networking, I place densification as a higher priority than 5 carrier aggregation.
you think densification is more important than carrier aggregation for capacity?
Yes.
I agree with what Sneed just said just now.
Think about what we're saying here, gents.
Yes, I am thinking
Capacity.
about it because when you framed it
Capacity
the
is
last
not density.
No, I can't believe I'm about to say this, and I know what you do, but you're wrong, Zero Cool.
I'm
Um,
not wrong.
no,
No, no,
hear me
no.
out.
I'm not trying to make him wrong. What I'm trying to say is that if you have a tower site that has 3 carrier aggregation, because that's all you got. Like Verizon does 3 carriers, right? They do a low band. It'll either be band 5 10 by 10, 13 10 by 10. It would be one or the other, and then it'll be 10 megahertz of PCS, and then 20 by 20 of AWS. So let's call it 30 or 35 megahertz. All right. If I have that on every site, and I have a site every mile, that's better than AT&T putting a tower site every 2 miles, but having 5 carrier aggregation on every site.
I get what you're saying, but that's not going to be the end result, my friend. That's what I'm telling you. AT&T is going to catch up with Verizon in density and beat the crap out of them when they get one more spectrum auctions and actually carry like more than what Verizon has.
But when Verizon
I'm
does
talking
that
long game
deep,
here.
so when Verizon has the density already, and then they get the spectrum to go with it, I got AT&T playing from behind. I got Verizon winning in that scenario. I think Verizon's network performs better because the tower sites are closer and they have deep channels. The fact that they don't have all the carriers is not going to be as meaningful as their densification advantage.
So there's three things to win. There is density, there is bandwidth, there's carrier aggregation. Those three things. You have to have all three. In the long term, you have to have all three. You can't just have density is great for just short term, and so is, you know, capacity. But you know what? It's the capacity eventually will get eventually, not immediately, but eventually will get used due to demand. If you think about like what increase in if AR or VR that takes off, 8K stuff. The reason why I think AT&T is going to win is it's just due to those facts. It's just they're playing 6D chess and Verizon's only playing 3D. Like it's great to have density, yes, sure.
Okay,
But
so
if you
Verizon has AWS, they have PCS, they have CBRS, they have band 13, they have band 5. Okay. They have 2 different channels types usually of millimeter wave, and then they're gonna have N77, right?
I'm not counting millimeter wave in this scenario though.
Okay, we'll take out millimeter wave. They got PCS, AWS, band 13, band 5, and then it goes into their sub 6 gigahertz, so it's gonna be the N77 and the N48 or CBRS, however you wanna do it.
Mhm.
Okay, so what does AT&T do different is they have band 30, they have
Mhm.
band 29,
Mhm.
and that's what separates them from the other carriers, because all the other carriers, it's like it's the basics. It's AWS, PCS, and then a low band, and then it's whatever. So, like, that's what makes them different. It's the WCS that nobody else has, and it's the band 29, the additional 700 megahertz. You could say that band 14 is kind of a boost too, because they have
They got
15 by 15
yeah.
of the low band of band 12. So it's essentially one extra carrier, Zero Cool. Maybe two. You want to make the argument? Fine.
Well,
N29.
the point of when you do aggregation, when you're carrying those different bandwidths together, it's such a better uh, it's such a better performance boost, because what your radio does is, if you're just only doing, let's say, C band, for example, okay, um, based on range, okay, that's going to perform differently. What did we just talk about earlier tonight? Dennis was only getting, even though his density is horrible, but his throughput was not so good on cell edge, right? This is where aggregation with different bands actually improves your performance. So if you add density on top of that with different frequency bands, that's going to beat out any high bandwidth channel.
Yeah, but Zero Cool. I'm not saying carrier aggregation isn't important, because we've seen what carrier ag can do with five-way
Yeah.
carrier. But my point is that, like, that problem that you're talking about that carrier ag solves, density already solves itself. Like, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, Verizon put a tower like right next to my house with C band. And just C band was the thing covering me. I would be better served by that than if Verizon was to add even more carrier aggregation channels to that tower that's really far away from me with the
Yep.
very weak cell edge. Like, do you get what I'm saying?
No, I know. I know what you're saying. Yeah, you need that. But the winning combination, what I'm trying to get across, is you need three things: density, aggregation, bandwidth, in order to win. Right now, AT&T is the only carrier. If Verizon would have bid in the 3.45 and they're going to keep on bidding, I would say Verizon will win. But
All
they
right,
didn't.
man. Look. Okay, I work out. I like weightlifting. Okay, let me see if this maybe works. You
You're gonna
tell me
make
if you like
you're
this
buying some
analogy.
scallops.
All
Yeah,
right,
go
you
ahead.
like scallops, I know. But let me give it to you like this, and then you guys tell me if this works. I love lifting weights. I love it, okay? Everybody wants to figure out how to get huge, how to get really strong. So what do? They look up the best protein powder. They look up the best times to eat. How they start making like really lean chicken breast. They start looking up all these things, and they forget about the main thing, which is working hard on the bench, actually doing the exercises and lifting heavy weights. To me, having deep channels is like lifting heavy weights, doing pull-ups a lot, bench pressing big barbell. You know, like you're actually doing the thing, right? The protein powders and the chicken breast is all good. Have you ever seen the guys that come out of jail? They eat garbage, bro, and they're huge, and they eat
Yeah.
next to nothing. They don't eat steak, none of that, and they come out huge because they just sit there and do push-ups all day long. So my point is this: I feel like that whole carrier aggregation thing is nuance. It's like it's like something that's really intricate. It's something that's very exquisite. It's something that's very specialized. But I just can't see how Verizon's going to lose at something when they have 200 megahertz of 3.7, 60 to 80 megahertz of CBRS maybe. And if it goes full power, I mean, all bets are off. You know? And
Yeah. If it goes full power, I only know what I can. I mean, I only know what I know. So there's a lot of what ifs. But I'm just saying, Verizon could.
dude, Verizon walked out of that auction, dog, and
They
didn't
could.
get any of the 3.4. I mean,
I
that
know.
is crazy for them to feel so look, I don't agree with it. I still think they should have got at least 20 megahertz
Yeah.
in the top 46 PAs.
Let me ask you this: do you think what's the okay? So let's do some quick preliminary things here. All right, so we're at what 60
Bro,
megahertz?
listen,
Hold on,
let's
60.
address David's comment real quick. If you go to jail, not only can you get huge, but you can also get your teeth fixed for free. Just throwing that out there.
Hey, if you're a diabetic, you also get free insulin.
And in some states, other cosmetic things get taken care of too, including LASIK.
All right, go ahead, Zero Cool.
I'm just trying to do some. So this site that had CBRS and C Band, you said you were getting what now? 1.3 was it?
The CBRS and C Band situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 30 or 40 megahertz of CBRS. And I think band 13 maybe. And then it was the C band. So it was like 400 megabits or 500 megabits coming from the LTE, and then 850 coming from the C band.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What up, Los?
What up, Lowe's? I don't. We'll see who wins, man. I still got my.
You know I'm still sending you scallops anyways, bro. You're the best, bro.
I still got my scallop money on
Scallop money.
AT&T, and this is
I'm still waiting on that shawarma sneed.
and I still need to have my warm cooked meal from the bakery that you promised me.
Dude, Pete's had it. Pete knows.
I think I might order some from bakery.
But hey, real quick, I need to ask you a cool question here. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm not disagreeing with you that all three things you mentioned are important, but what I need you to explain to me really, or what I want to talk about, and then tell me if my mindset is wrong, is this: if you densify, right, you're quite literally going to be reducing the amount of subscribers per cell because you're just offloading the traffic to the cells like that's going to provide stronger signal, and as such, also there's going to be more bandwidth available per subscriber in that.
Yes,
scenario.
we call that offloading traffic. Yes.
Yes. Carrier aggregation attempts to do something somewhat similar, except more on a per frequency basis, where you're trying to offload traffic off of a specific channel. Like if band 13 is congested, then you put some of that traffic on the AWS when in range. What I don't understand is that how you don't think that the densification process is a better approach to that over just doing multiple more layers of carrier aggregation.
Because basically because with the densification, your traffic patterns shift, right? This is why carrier aggregation is important in my mind, because you can have take a concert, for example. They're not always going to be in this one they're always, they're going to be in one huge spot. They're not going to be, a couple of towns over where all the clusters of sites are, right? So with carrier aggregation, that's why it's important for those large crowds. This is why MIMO technologies are important as well, right? And that's the thing. I'm throwing massive, excuse me, I'm throwing massive MIMO in with the carrier aggregation, mind you. So I'm including that in it.
All right. Looks like I'm gonna have to send Carlos some grub from the bakery, or else I'm gonna be getting some string songs.
G-strings.
And oh my goodness! All
Also,
right,
on
bro.
a
I'm gonna send stuff out
Dude,
tomorrow,
I
dog. You
just
got it.
make some hummus. Let me
Yeah,
tell
you got it, bro. I
on a
got you.
side note for AT&T in the long game here, this is how I see things going on. We can look at this 2 years later. I think Verizon is going to take market leadership, similar to what they did in the LT era over the coming short-term years. So the next couple years here, I think they're going to take back market leadership.
Dang.
But just like what happened during the LT era, I think that AT&T has the opportunity to be in a better long-term position due to the fact that they have a already established rich portfolio of spectrum that, if in combination with their density, they could be in a better place.
Exactly. I mean, this is my point. Verizon already has the density. AT&T is kicking their butt in LTE downlink throughput.
Oh yeah.
See, this is exactly my point. And they were doing it. Well, guess what? MIMO technology and carrier aggregation. Density is great, but it's not the winning combination. And this is what I'm trying to stress.
So wait a minute. How did it win before, and why is it going to lose now?
Okay, I'm just talking about on a, yes, they won room metrics, but I'm just talking about on a like the testing that Carlos was doing. Okay, I've seen time and time again, AT&T just beat out left and right Verizon on this testing, and that's the exact situation what we're going to find ourselves in a year or two.
I think it's going to take longer than a year or two. I'm saying in 2 years' time, Verizon will be market leader, but like AT&T will be the one that ends the era as the dominant player in 5G.
I mean, you have to ask yourself why, Sneed. I mean, you saw it, when Carlos was doing this testing, you saw it right then and there, and why.
Wait, what did Carlos's testing show us?
That AT&T's LTE network was outperforming Verizon's, even though Verizon had lots of density.
Yeah, because there's a difference of like 30 megahertz of spectrum. That's an absurd amount of disparity. All
Right.
things. So if your spectrum
That's
licenses
27 megahertz of data.
Well, it's
look, here's the math. Here's the math on AT&T. I got 120 to 140 megahertz of DoD 3.4 and C Band 3.7. Well, I got 120 to 140. Verizon's at like 160 to 200. Okay, are we good there?
for the numbers.
Is that accurate? Is yes or no?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay, now Verizon has, and it depends on the place. Generally speaking, 20 by 20 AWS, 10 by 10 PCS, 10 by 10 700, 10 by 10 band 5 in some places. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So then you have AT&T, which has those things, but also has band 30 and band 29, 10 by 10 and then 10.
Well, don't discredit band 30.
Yeah, but I'm going to count that. So I'm going to say, okay, there's where their LTE advantage lies. They have like one or two extra carriers. So where the hell does that all of a sudden put Verizon in the back seat? How?
I'm just saying it will put him in the back seat because AT&T has all three, the winning combination of that. They're going to have equal density to Verizon. They're going to have more care for carrier aggregation and close to bandwidth. Think about it. I'll simplify it to you.
Hold on, aggregation.
Hold on. Let me simplify this. Let's say, okay, this is who's going to win if Verizon and AT&T had the same density and the same bandwidth, but AT&T has more carrier aggregation, more carriers to aggregate.
But they don't have the same spectrum anymore, and like Verizon has more now.
I know.
So what does it matter that AT&T has extra carrier aggregation when they have less spectrum?
Because They're going to get more. They will have, depending on future auctions, especially if they bid in the 2.5 and the 3.1, they might
Bruh,
equal out to
I
Verizon
swear to you,
Spectrum.
Zero Cool, most of the time, most like 90% of the time or more, Verizon has better uplink than AT&T, and AT&T has 5 carrier aggregation, and Verizon has 3.
Mm, that's market dependent, I would say. I mean, I've seen it go both ways.
I'm not seeing what you're telling me.
I'm just saying, like in a couple of years, depending on the auctions, right? If Verizon, let's just take a certain market for example. If AT&T equals Verizon's density in that market, they have the same amount of, let's just say, mid-band spectrum ish. Okay, the carrier that's going to win is going to be the carrier that can do it with carrier aggregation and MIMO technologies. When you carrier aggregate carriers, especially with MIMO on top of it, what you're doing there is actually doing multiple streams, multiple devices. So if you just take one phone, you have multiple streams, carrier act with different frequencies, high bandwidth. So that's gonna beat out.
So Zero Cool, can you put a value on what the extra carrier aggregation is going to do for AT&T? Like as a percentage, how much better does that improve their network? Just the fact that they'll have
Um,
extra carriers than
yeah,
others.
I would say it usually gives about a 20 to 30%, depending on the MIMO tech. If it's 64, well, I'll just take for T-Mobile's example, like 64 by 64, 120 by 128. It's about a 30% increase in downlink and uplink throughput.
Okay, so if it's that high, if it's and in our case is 45%. If it's that high, then that would mean that Verizon would need 30 or 40% more spectrum to have their same type of throughput.
It's not all about how much uh, bandwidth per se. It's just that's not always going to give you.
I thought of a good analogy to explain this real quick. I'm going to take a crack at it.
Sure.
All right, so Sneed, the best way that I could try to explain this is like this. Let's just say we're on a nice highway, okay? When you have a ton, like one very large chunk of spectrum, it's still a one-lane highway. The speed limit might be like 70 miles per hour, but it's still one lane. So if there is ever a moment in time where it gets clogged up, you're kind of
Hey,
screwed.
Highway US 350 in southeast Colorado. Damn good road. One lane on each side. Let's go with that.
But anyway, with 5G, even if we did network splicing and you started making more extra lanes with that big one chunk of contiguous spectrum, let's just say you made it 4 lanes, you're still using the same highway with the speed limit of 70 miles per hour. Carrier aggregation is useful because you can have multiple lanes
And multiple speeds.
And multiple speeds.
Yes, thank you, Dennis.
Which is important if we're talking about the different use cases for how devices are going to be used on the network, i.e., you can put the Internet of Things devices which are slow.
Yeah, but here, I got something for you too, bro. Network slicing is not going to be better on a carrier aggregation network. It's not going to make a difference as much as you think.
That's not what I was trying to get at.
Well, this is what I'm trying to say. Network slicing is really going to probably only support the fact that all you have to do is create capacity. You create a lot of available capacity, and then you allow your core to do all of your work. Slicing and dicing and allocating spectrum and bandwidth and all that. I think this whole carrier aggregation thing, in theory, obviously it does help. I get it. And it's going to manifest itself in a way that's going to make AT&T's network really special. But the specialty about these other networks like T-Mobile's and Verizon's is just going to be the fact that the channels are so goddamn wide that they're always going to be fast. So you can have like all these examples and we can make analogies and try to like make it make more sense. But I think at the end of the day, with the intelligence of the software, the vendors are going to create scenarios and opportunities where the network slicing is going to be more meaningful than just having a bunch of different bands.
I
But you're
wasn't
gonna
I,
have
I
the
wasn't counting network slicing in all this scenario. What Dennis is saying is regarding the highway is correct. So the thing is that having bandwidth on a radio on a certain frequency guarantees you a certain what we call peak throughput. Okay, we had to study this when we actually first doing it. It's peak throughput, downlink and uplink, peak throughput for bandwidth. The reason why I say like the three things, density, carriation, bandwidth is important, especially on the carriation side, is because those peak throughputs get changed, and I'm sorry, those peak throughputs get okay. For example, you have I don't know like a hundred. Okay, here's a simple example. Let's say you have 100. You know how fast 100 megahertz of N41 can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you carry aggregate a 20 meg. Oh fuck it, we'll make it a 40 megahertz channel. Okay, on top of that. Now, does your downlink and uplink throughput change?
I mean, yeah.
Okay, why? Why does it change?
Yeah, but what makes you think Verizon won't do 100 and 100 if they have 200 megahertz of N77?
Well,
okay.
I'm sure that they will, but you know what?
Well,
The problem that I see is in future spectrum auctions, they should have participated in the 3.45.
They should have. You're right. You are right. That is
And
100% fact. I'm with you there.
both
They
of
and
should
you
there's
have
are
the
got
also
problem.
to.
missing both.
Hold on. They're probably not going to participate in the 2.5, probably not, or maybe the 3.1. The problem is the reason I'm saying AT&T is going to win is because they're going to clean Verizon's clock on these future spectrum auctions. It's going to burn them, and that's why I'm going to say they're going to win with the density, carrier ag, and bandwidth. That's all I'm saying.
But both of you are also missing one of the points that I was trying to also make with the analogy that I was going for. I'm focusing on other aspects aside from raw throughput and specifically the latency aspect.
Latency, I knew it. I knew he was going to say latency.
So, like, I'm sorry to always bring this back down to the Wi-Fi example, but it's honestly easier for me to explain. I feel like it's easier to understand for most people. But there's a reason why when you deploy like an enterprise network for Wi-Fi, you put certain legacy devices on the 2.4 gigahertz channel. It's not just because of like 2.4 being better for penetration purposes, but it's because these older, slower, weaker devices quite literally impact the performance for the rest of the client devices on the Wi-Fi network. So if you put them on
so true.
so if you put them on the so if you put them on the 5 gigahertz channel, even if you have one of the latest and greatest shiny devices that supports 4x4 MIMO and everything else on Wi-Fi, it's not going to be able to achieve its theoretical peak performance. And typically, the first thing that's going to be noticed outside of raw throughput is going to be the ping time impact. And one of the big focuses with 5G for me, or the one that's most interesting, is not the peak speeds, because these speeds, as I've mentioned, have already been seen in South Korea on LTE, is the latency enhancements. That is the reason for why carrier aggregation is going to be important. I personally, of the standpoint, this is where me and Zero Cool disagree, that density is more important than carrier aggregation, but it's a very significant, important thing to have in your back pocket if you're talking about the holistic scope of deploying a true 5G network.
Okay, so let
I'm
me
not
let me
saying
get
one's more
this.
important than the other. I'm just saying that all three are important, and AT&T is the only one that's going to do it right.
But let me get to the super chat real quick. Thanks, Uber Rampage. I appreciate that. Very kind of you and generous. Could AT&T potentially push out N5 to surpass T-Mobile N71 in coverage with the number of sites AT&T has upgraded? The problem with AT&T's Band 5 is they don't own Band 5 nationwide. And they also, like when I look at where it's located, it's 5 megahertz of an N5 channel. It's never going to be meaningful with the exception that it gave them an icon in many places. So it's not. N71 is more meaningful to T-Mobile customers than N5 would ever be to an AT&T customer.
N5 on AT&T is roughly the equivalent of that LTE badge when you're only connected to 12.
Yeah, let me kind of give another scenario, and I'll use my LA example. On an N41, just an N41 site, single carrier, we were getting about 50, 60, maybe even like 100 meg if on a good day. Okay, out of that on my DAS system, I'm sorry, at the stadium, when we did 5G and we had 3x carrier, okay, 20 by 20 by 20 to make it 60, Lowe's saw about 700, 800 meg. So, that's great, just for N41 itself. So, if you have, okay, let me just, it's kind of like a puzzle. If you have 3 carrier aggregations in N41, you have, let's say, how Verizon's even doing like their 2 and their 700 megahertz, right? They're doing the 2x carrier ag, right? The more carrier ags that you can do with high bandwidth, the better, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. AT&T doesn't have high bandwidth in all these channels. It's a
They
bunch of
will.
small stuff.
They will.
Okay, here's the math. N77, AT&T is going to have 120 megahertz. Verizon is going to have 160 to 200.
Right, but like I said, I'm speaking about
future auctions.
Heck, I guarantee you, AT&T is going to clean Verizon's clock.
Okay, tell me what they're going to get and what Verizon isn't going to
get. They'll probably get, okay, I'm just spitballing here. So let's say.
What do you want to do, the 3.1? You want to do that option?
No, we'll do the 2.5 first. I think
okay,
AT&T.
2.5. You got AT&T getting spectrum. I got them getting nothing.
No, well, if they're
smart.
not
even putting up C Band gear. You think they're going to buy 2.5?
I hope
Come on, man.
I hope so. I hope they get 40 megahertz of it.
Okay, hold on. You think they're going to buy 2.5? They are not even putting up C Band gear. And you think they're going to buy 2.5?
If they're smart, they will. If they don't buy any 2.5,
that's the thing. What's the indication? What's the indication?
I talked to you about getting back at T-Mobile. I talked about that over the phone. But
okay, I get it. That's like saying I'm gonna freaking I'm gonna cut off my nose to spite my face.
Yeah, I mean, if AT&T does not bid in the 2.5 and the 3.1, yeah, Verizon will win. But if they do, then in future it's going to be game over for Verizon. Trust me.
Hold on. I don't like talking about the future like that. Let's not. Me
neither. But right now, Verizon has way more spectrum.
Let me talk.
I'm trying to see where his process is.
My process in the future. That's all I'm saying. I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about in the future.
I'm looking at the future too, but let's ignore the auctions for just a second. Let me explain my process real quick. Worst case scenario with AT&T's current spectrum holdings, worst case scenario is that they have roughly on par performance with Verizon, with at certain points having an advantage due to the release schedule for the rest of the C band, just because the DoD stuff should be usable for them sooner. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario is AT&T is in a better position than Verizon just because of the fact that they have more resources at their disposal to play with because of the carrier aggregation, which I think we have come to at least some consensus that it is an important part of the puzzle. And
but they don't have the same amount of spectrum, and then it's not carrier aggregation giving them the edge.
Not just that, you're forgetting one important piece: the backhaul. AT&T.
What's wrong with Verizon's backhaul?
Nothing. But I think AT&T will outdo them in backhaul.
Well, wait. What's wrong with Verizon's backhaul? I'll bring up one point since you were someone. We had a big old heated debate about leasing versus using your own. Verizon, for the vast majority of their backhaul, does not run their own backhaul.
They're number 2 in miles run of fiber. Well, there's only one company that has more, and it's AT&T.
For the state of Pennsylvania, I'm talking about the holistic state of Pennsylvania, the number 1 backhaul provider for all the cell carriers, it's not just Verizon, all of the cell carriers, is Comcast. The second backhaul provider is Armstrong Cable.
Look, I personally believe that AT&T is the sleeping giant in 5G.
No wonder why everything sucks in Pittsburgh.
Look, I personally believe that AT&T is the sleeping giant of 5G. I said this a long time ago. Everybody loves the T-Mobile N41, and everybody loves the C Band and millimeter wave from Verizon. But AT&T has in spades fiber, and they're willing to densify. So I've always
Yeah.
liked AT&T as the sleeping giant, but you cannot tell me that it is clearly and definitively going to be a 5G generation of networks that will be won by the carrier with the least amount of spectrum just because
I'm
you
not
think
saying
that
it's
they're
just
that you
because.
just because you think carrier aggregation is gonna give them the edge. There's no way that that could be the edge when
No,
you're
it's not. It's
behind by
not just
40
the edge.
megahertz of spectrum
It's,
and you don't have better density than your competitors yet.
no, it's not. It's not. I'm not saying it's all just carrier aggregation. What I'm trying to say is that what I'm trying to say in the future is that AT&T will beat out Verizon due to. I'm saying carrier aggregation is a factor, yes, but AT&T will beat out Verizon due to better backhaul, carrier aggregation, density, and their bandwidth.
If they do all those things better, then you're right. They
Well,
will
that's
be
what I've been
better than
trying to say
Verizon.
for like 20
Even
minutes.
if they don't,
Come
let's just
on,
Hold
say,
up,
Phil.
hold
hold
up,
on,
But
hold
no,
up.
no.
It's
My
been
point
35.
hold on,
I've
hold
been
on.
trying to say for like the past hour.
Let's just say hypothetically, we lived in a world where Verizon and AT&T's density was perfectly parity, backhaul was equivalent, right? The only differentiating factor was the carrier ag. AT&T having the ability to do carrier aggregation gives them the edge.
Okay, number 1, they don't have more spectrum than Verizon. Number 2, they don't have more densification than Verizon.
Yet.
So you're going off of your predictions. Those are your predictions.
Yes, that's what I've been clamoring
But
about for
Hey,
there's
like
no
an hour.
guarantee of that because
Sneed,
we just watched the last 10 years of LTE and Verizon kicked their ass.
I disagree with that sentiment. I think
Sneed,
AT&T walked away winning the
I'm going to
LTE
say
era.
something objective here. Okay? It doesn't matter which carrier in the future has more spectrum. I'm still headed to bed.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
Appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, man.
Also, Pete, can I ask you a question? Can I
Sure,
post our time at Heart Attack Girl on Twitter?
whatever.
All right, sweet.
And you
You know,
know
I
what?
had this conversation with Moose last quarter, and I'll make sure that because I don't want to misquote it. This is important. He told me, and this is 100% fact. You guys can look at the numbers. Verizon has never had 2 bad quarters in a row. Okay, they never did. It never happened. They historically have a bad Q1, then they always bounce back Q2, and then they have a good Q3 and 4. He told me that they were going to have 2 bad quarters in a row and that they were going to lose 100,000 subscribers net. And I said, "You're telling me that the first time ever, it's never happened before. You're telling me that Verizon's going to lose customers and they're not going to grow 2 quarters in a row. It's never happened in the history of the company and it's going to happen right now." And he said, "Yes, that is going to happen." And I said, "Moose, you're going to pick the one thing that's never occurred ever. You're picking that to happen right now." And he said, "Yes." So over the last 10 years in LTE, you are telling me that AT&T is going to out-densify Verizon.
Okay,
For the first time ever,
here's
you're
the
going to
thing.
go with that.
I'm gonna keep this real. I'm gonna keep this is. I'm gonna keep this simple. You can only densify so much. Okay, after you only densify so much because you can have towers interfering with one another, it comes down to bandwidth king carriers. Would you agree with that statement?
I do, but I got Verizon
Okay.
having more bandwidth.
Well, okay, but do you think enough bandwidth is going to outdo carrier aggregation and
They got one extra
backhaul
carrier.
and
They got
backhaul in
one
the
extra
future?
carrier.
Mm,
One,
could be two, could be three.
maybe 2.
This is why spectrum auctions are so important because you can only densify so much in an area. I put when I was doing my build in Modesto, I had 20 builds in 1 year, and then it was 40 for the next year. And then when I left, we had additional, I think it was 10 or 15 macros in the whole county that was going to be added onto that, and that was pretty much it. You don't need to dense. We didn't need to densify more after that.
So there's something we're also not talking about, and it hasn't come up yet, but I think it's important to talk about in the spectrum equation. There are a lot of markets where Verizon could lose their ability to deploy the amount of C-band they've been utilizing if the other holders of C-band in those markets, specifically cable operators, decide to build out their own networks for their MVNOs.
What do you mean, like Xfinity and Charter?
Yes, like because the way C-band works, and correct me if I am wrong, but this is my understanding, is that even if you only own like 10 megahertz, you can utilize the maximum amount of C-band available in the market, assuming that no one else is using it. But if someone that does own it, like say 20, 40 megahertz worth, and they want to go live, then you have to reduce what you're utilizing for the person that actually owns that spectrum in that market. Is that the correct statement?
What? No, no, you are allotted your full spectrum license. That just depends. The only way that you reduce your bandwidth is if you're interfering with somebody else.
But I'm saying if you have 10 megahertz, right? Let's just say that I'm just using an example. Let's just say there's 100 megahertz available to be deployed. Just using an example, okay? If you have 10 megahertz and no one else is doing it, it's kind of first come, first serve. You can go full live with 100 megahertz of it, correct?
If you only if you only have 10 megahertz, you're saying, but you need to go live with 100.
If you have 10 megahertz and no one else is using the remaining 90 megahertz available in that market, you can go live deploying the 100 megahertz because it's shared. Yes? No?
If it's an unlicensed frequency.
Okay, perfect. But if someone else that owns a portion of that spectrum decides they want to deploy it, you have to reduce your on-air spectrum that you have going, correct?
That's correct. Due to that all depends on your PEP, your peak envelope, and if it's going to be near the bordering sites of theirs. Yeah.
All right, cool. So we know, or I mean, I say it's safe to assume, based off of what we know, that cable operators do have plans to utilize that frequency range for their domestic purposes, for their regional purposes.
I mean, I could definitely see. I mean, personally, I could see Comcast and Xfinity. I mean, I don't. They can't launch something in C-band and call it their own if that's what you're thinking. They can't do that.
They can't put up C-band for Xfinity Mobile customers only.
If they're using Verizon Spectrum, they can.
Not the spectrum that Verizon has a dedicated license on. I'm talking about the parts where Verizon was using the unlicensed bits that weren't being utilized yet.
Like a guard band or something. I mean, that's the only thing I can.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but I thought my thought process, and again, I'm happy to be told I'm wrong. My thought process or understanding with CBRS was, if you own a little bit of it, you can use basically anything that's available in the pie until someone else utilizes it. First come, first
no,
serve.
it's not. See, with GAA, with CBRS, you with the unlicensed frequency, it's still the range. You still have a range with that. Now you can, like, for example, if the range is like, I don't know, to say like, I don't know, like 40 megahertz of unlicensed, you can do the full freaking 40 if you wanted to.
Okay, so let's take Verizon, for example. They've got 30 to 40 megahertz licensed in these PEAs, like top PEAs. Within anywhere across the US, there's 10 megahertz blocks that are GAA or unlicensed. So it's first come, first serve. If it's available, you can use it.
Correct, at 10 megahertz.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what segment or block, you're just going to get whatever you want to use. Like if it's, let's say there's 50 megahertz unused of unlicensed CBRS, you can use it.
It's 50
Verizon, before they
megahertz
got
within that unlicensed frequency range, though. That's the point.
Yeah, but before Verizon got their PAs, right, with the PALs, the 30 to 40 megahertz, they were using 70 megahertz of unlicensed. When they first installed the gear, they didn't have their PALs, their licenses.
Right. Yep. That's correct. Yep.
And then once they got their licenses, they started running those. They started using less of the unlicensed. Now they don't even use the unlicensed anymore.
See, here's the thing with the license frequency band, you cannot interfere with that. If you do, there's legal action. See what I mean?
Gotcha.
Dennis, man, Sneed too, man. Anybody on this channel, if you want a millimeter wave license, bro, let me know. I'll hook you up.
I mean, how much does it cost?
$600.
My God.
But you get so much spectrum, bro. I got literally
You have 100 megahertz?
I got more than that. I got
What?
dude, I got I have to go get my license really quick. I got
400?
almost. It's the actually. Give me a minute. Let me actually look it up really quick. I can tell you.
Well, I can't make use of it because I have Fios fiber, and that's a terrible backhaul solution.
Most people say that Fios has been good for them. Definitely not for you, Dennis.
I think Pennsylvania is a troubled state for Verizon as a holistic picture because it's not just my west side.
I don't know why they didn't sell the Frontier in Pennsylvania, Doug.
Dude, I told you, bro, the state of Pennsylvania literally paid Verizon to deploy fiber, and they just sat on the money and pocketed it. If they would have just did what they were supposed to do, Verizon quite literally could have fiber to every single household in this state without having to pay a dime on it. But that's a whole nother rant. Anyway, we are approaching the 3-hour mark. I want to kind of have a quick recap consolidation on the biggest topic of the night because I feel like there were some discrepancies here. Sneed, who do you picture being the market leader for the era of 5G? Shoot.
Market share as in most customers?
Just overall dominant players. So LT era, I think it's safe to say Verizon ran the gambit for pretty much the majority of it until the very last quarter type of deal where AT&T just snuck out of nowhere. So I'm talking about from network standpoint.
I think Verizon. I have no reason to doubt their pedigree, and I mean they've got deep channels and they spend money and they densify and they do small cells and they're deep on millimeter wave. They have CBRS. They've already started that layer. It's their CBRS build is substantial. Their N77 is going to be the lifeblood of their capacity. Millimeter wave is supposedly going to carry 50% of urban traffic. If all of that is true, nobody's touching them.
Okay, perfect. Moose, you next.
Moose left a long time ago.
I think he's
dang.
He's taking a 5G nap.
All right, Zero Cool, you go.
All right, let me tell you my frequency bands I'm licensed here. You're gonna love this. All right, 71 gigahertz. This is gigahertz, mind you. I got the whole range. 71 gigahertz.
Holy crap!
Yeah, this is in the set. Okay, so the millimeter wave frequency range are 70, 80, 90 gigahertz. Okay, here's my bandwidth access. So I have 71 gigahertz to 76 gigahertz, 81 gigahertz to 86 gigahertz, 92 gigahertz to 94 gigahertz, 94.100 gigahertz to 95 gigahertz. I have all
crazy,
that.
bro.
I have all that all to myself.
That is nuts.
All right. Well, circling to the genesis of the conversation that I was asking earlier. For me personally, I see AT&T having a similar thing that happened during the LTE era, where for a little bit Verizon is going to become market leader, and then AT&T is going to end up overall with the best performing network. And then I don't see T-Mobile even being a factor in this at this point.
Yeah, I think Verizon
unless something happens with Lumen, right?
Even if something happens with Lumen, it's not going to matter.
Nothing's going to happen with Lumen.
Listen, even if it did, Lumen's fiber footprint, similar to when T-Mobile acquired Sprint had lots of fiber, but it was in the places that didn't matter. And the same thing is with Lumen. Lumen's not a true, Lumen also has, I believe, layer 3 somewhere mixed in with that too, or maybe level 3, excuse me. But like, it's just
Yeah,
not
I
enough.
can tell you guys right now, nothing's gonna happen with Lumen based on contract. I can tell you that right now.
They don't have fiber, man. They'll never reach parity with the people that run fiber.
There will be a cute little merger with a
That's what
little
I'm saying. It would have to be that.
Comcast merger.
It would ha
Comcast merger isn't gonna. There's just no way the Comcast merger happens.
Oh, it will happen. Believe me.
There, no. Let me put it this way: if Comcast wanted to own T-Mobile, first off, in my opinion, I talked about this on the Spaces, and I know I got disagreed upon, but Comcast's MO, if they wanted to actually own T-Mobile, would be going after Deutsche Telekom.
No, they're not. It's the other way around. T-Mobile is buying Comcast. Just
Oh, you're so drunk. There's no way,
dude. I got some insider information, bro. Come on, man.
dude.
By the way,
No.
I want to say I think 2023 is going to be AT&T's year in wireless. I just want to say
There
that.
you go.
I think
now he's on board.
but I still think Verizon is gonna. I mean, 2022 is Verizon's year.
It is, yeah, sure.
But real quick, going back to this topic, if Comcast wanted to own T-Mobile, they would buy up and acquire Deutsche Telekom because it's more affordable because Deutsche Telekom's on.
Bro, who wants to buy a foreign company?
Dude, they couldn't afford Deutsche Telekom.
It's cheaper than buying out T-Mobile based off stock value.
I don't know.
It is.
The Germans would never let it.
T-Mobile.
It is cheaper than buying out T-Mobile, and they would have access to not just the United States but other markets thanks to that acquisition. Plus, by doing Deutsche Telekom, they don't have to deal with all the shenanigans that come from T-Mobile with SoftBank and their stake ownership in a company.
They barely have any share left.
Yeah,
I just don't think Deutsche Telekom, like the rumblings and I'm just gonna say the rumblings. Don't expect Comcast to be around much longer, man.
Zero cool. If T-Mobile buys Comcast, I will personally come to your house, bake you one of my zucchini. I'll bake you all 3 of my famous zucchini breads with zucchini made in the garden, and I will clean your whole house as your personal maid for a week.
Jeez. All right. Well, here's the thing. Here's if you look at back and this is public information, so you can look at this. Okay, if T-Mobile wasn't able to buy Sprint, their merger partner was Comcast. It's in the 2015 documents. That's all public. Go look it up. And you know what? I know something. Is that back in the Nextel deal, the old adage and how it went was like this: Sprint was going to buy Nextel. And then T-Mobile was going to buy Sprint, and then T-Mobile was going to buy Comcast.
Yeah, but zero cool. You're underestimating and downplaying Comcast's 2 main MOs. One is that Comcast as a company does not like to take on debt. They like to keep a very healthy cash flow with healthy profit margins, with healthy cash on hand for economic downturns. That's number one. And number two, well, actually, continue expanding upon number one. T-Mobile has a pretty significant amount of debt that goes with them in some baggage. And number two is Comcast is not the same company as a decade ago where they were picking up small regional providers. They've learned from that, and it's typically more expensive to pick up some already established player than them just deploying it themselves. Comcast has gone by nature now at this point, and it prefers to do hyper builds than to just pick up some regional provider or something.
Right, but here's the thing. Verizon's got fiber with Corning and whatnot. Okay, with their XO Communications. Okay, AT&T already knows who has fiber. T-Mobile does not have fiber. Where are they going to get fiber? Okay, this is why this whole conundrum is drawn up. That's why they want a cable provider, either Charter or Comcast, because they have fiber. Think about it, dude. They're not going to be able to afford to build all these millimeter wave nodes that they want to do and lease backhaul. You know, that's extremely expensive.
Yeah, but Comcast is in a winning position without T-Mobile because
what a winning position, dude.
Listen to me for a second. T-Mobile has to pay Comcast for backhaul. They do it for all the cell sites in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And Comcast already has the permits for all the poles that people want to put their small cells on. So even without buying T-Mobile, they're in a winning position. They're making money hand over fist with profit margins without having to take on any of the business and operational expense and risk that come from acquiring a cellular provider like T-Mobile.
I keep on saying Comcast is not going to buy T-Mobile. It's going to be the other way around.
Dude, T-Mobile couldn't afford to buy Comcast. They literally couldn't.
That's how it's going to be.
So this is true. This comment here from Ryan. AT&T and Verizon do have higher debt loads, but they also have free cash flow, which T-Mobile has like nothing.
And they also have a much larger share of assets to put against that debt.
Yeah, all that counts. I mean, when you look at these companies, look at the market cap, look at the free cash flow. You know, you look at all these things collectively. T-Mobile looks like a company that's trying to stay light-footed to be ready to be sold.
All
You
right,
know,
so
AT&T and Verizon are going nowhere forever.
Speaking of market cap, real quick, Zero Cool, please explain to me how a company with a market cap of 126 billion is going to buy out a company that's worth double its value at 227 billion dollars. Please explain that to me.
Deutsche Telekom will help them some way, somehow.
They don't have any
Masa-san,
money.
Donald
They're
Trump,
looking for
somebody will help
bailouts,
them.
bro. They're looking for investors.
I just think I just think they need fiber. They need to be some owners of fiber, and they're going to buy a cable company in the near future.
You're right. They do need fiber. The problem
Where are they
is
going to get it then?
the problem is, and that's the catch-22. They can't. They like the only way T-Mobile gets fiber, okay, realistically speaking, meaningful amounts of fiber is if they start deploying it themselves, but they can't. They don't have the money. And you're telling me Deutsche Telekom, who's not even willing to give them money for T-Mobile to do such a thing, is going to somehow come up with the debt load to buy Comcast, who's worth double the value?
Comcast or Charter. The quickest way to own fiber is to buy another provider.
Do you know what Deutsche Telekom's market cap is?
Who
It's
cares what their
91.
market
It's
cap is?
91 billion. Comcast is worth more than Deutsche Telekom and T-Mobile combined in market cap.
I know. I did look at that, but here's the thing. It's the whole money talks thing. You know, they'll find a way. They'll find a way to do it.
Bro, listen. T-Mobile was only the A side in a deal with Sprint. They'll never be the A side in anything ever again.
Boy, I mean, the reason why I say this is because if you think about it, T-Mobile, I do have to give them props on one thing. They knew that their AT&T merger with T-Mobile would fail. They got a bunch of spectrum and whatnot, right? And $3 billion, $4 billion in cash. That launched their 4G LTE network. Okay, they knew that that Masa's son wouldn't have the gumption to buy them up. So what did they do? They waited a couple of years and bought them out instead.
Also, I need to say something else that's important. The market strategy for Comcast back in 2015, is different than the market strategy for Comcast today. Comcast's main focus and point of investment is no longer like residential. It's solely enterprise focused.
Right.
Like I can't share too much because NDAs, but I'll just say this because I don't think I'm breaking it when I say this. Comcast is being more of a tech company at this point that just happens to be an ISP at this point with what they've been developing from a software standpoint. It's publicly known that Comcast has been leasing out their X1 platform to cable providers across the country as well as internationally, but also from an AI focused standpoint. I can't share too much about it. I'll talk to you behind the scenes, Zero, but I promise you, based off of where the money's going and based off the nature of the Brian Roberts family and how they tend to operate the company, there's not a chance in hell they go to buy T-Mobile. Not a chance.
No, of course they won't buy T-Mobile. No.
Or be bought out by T-Mobile.
I think
Bro,
they're going to.
T-Mobile is not buying any cable operators.
Charter or Spectrum. Yeah, they will. Charter or Spectrum. They're not going to look. Think about it, guys.
I am thinking about it.
No, you're not thinking
trying to
hard enough.
How a $129 billion company is going to buy a $250 billion company.
Think long term. Think 6G. Think 6G. Okay,
hold
on. Think 6G. AT&T, Verizon, they own their own fiber. The only freaking way that T-Mobile is going to compete in the 6G, 5G, 6G world is to buy Charter or Spectrum.
They can't buy Charter or Spectrum.
Yes, they can.
No, they cannot. Charter or Spectrum can buy them.
No, that's not going to happen. It won't
Wait a
happen.
minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're gonna go and buy a bigger company than you?
Yeah, why not?
Oh man,
They're the
who's
number
giving you?
two. They're the
Okay,
number
zero
two
cool.
in the number two
Zero
wireless
cool.
company.
All due respect. Do you remember how many loans it took T-Mobile to get $26 billion?
I do, yeah.
Do you know how many loans it would have took Verizon or AT&T to get $26 billion?
Yeah, yeah. But here's the thing. You really think that Charter or Comcast is going to be even relevant in a 6G game?
Are you fucking shitting me, Zero Cool? They're
Uh,
going to be more relevant in the 6G era than ever before because
They're
of the
gonna be
metro.
they're gonna be the bloodline of networking. They're gonna be the guys that are gonna give them access to fiber and
Like,
Well,
okay, Zero Cool. Let me
okay,
just say,
okay. I'm not talking about that point. I'm just talking about on the wireless side of things.
okay,
We're gonna get there.
wireless for Comcast. First off, I just want to say this because Sneed didn't believe me. The fact that Comcast performs so well with Xfinity Mobile is insane, but that's not like they're not doing it to be a wireless player. It's strictly a retention play. In the same way that AT&T
Right.
is going fiber deep with residential customers as a retention play.
I know that, but none of that matters.
So like it does matter because the motivation for Comcast to want to merge with a wireless carrier like T-Mobile needs to be there. And the only thing Comcast would gain from T-Mobile is the Sprint fiber assets that T-Mobile acquired from the Sprint merger. But even that is pretty much worthless because that fiber goes to places that doesn't matter. And Comcast is already making investments on their own thanks to government contracts to expand their fiber anyway on the taxpayer dollars. So they have no incentive to want to acquire T-Mobile or be bought by T-Mobile. What do they gain? Nothing.
They gain a corporate CEO and lots of moolah. Think about what
Moolah.
Think
Bro,
about
do you know
about
cash?
John Ledger, how much he got to retire with.
Bro, do you know how much cash
No.
Comcast has on hand? Like liquid cash that they could just drop the drop of a hat.
what's their free cash flow?
I know they have a lot.
Hold on a second, Sneed. Let me get you the accurate number.
Yeah, you can look it up. You can
Yeah.
look up on their balance sheets, free cash flow, their PE, their market cap. It'll have the whole shebang.
Well, their PE ratio is 16.
That's good. That's good.
Their dividend yield is 2.1%.
That's irrelevant to me.
It's great for me as someone that likes dividend stocks, but
Okay, well, explain this to me. If why is it, and this is under oath, this is under testimony, by the way, that if the Sprint merger wasn't going through and back in 2015, why was T-Mobile's merger partner Comcast?
So you wanted their what'd you want exactly? Their
Free
revenue
cash flow.
Free cash flow. That would be under what, their revenue or their net income?
Maybe it has to be calculated. You might need
well, I'll go with their net profits. How's their net income, their net profit after expenditure, because that's a pretty good indicator of like the type of money they're bringing in. Their net profit is 4.4 billion.
Here, I'm gonna.
And that's quarterly. That's quarterly.
Okay, I'm sending you these stinking links in the private chat. Go look him up.
Links.
No, go look him up and tell me this can't be done. If they waited about it, they thought about it. They were going to do it if Sprint was off the table.
Yeah, but that's a different time period, and that's a different size.
No,
it is zero cool because the amount of customers in that market, like the share of that company now, T-Mobile's 2 carriers right now.
Okay, I got the cash flow for you, Sneed. Their cash flow per quarter, free cash flow, is just shy of 15 billion.
That's crazy. They're like 40 billion a year in free cash flow.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know they make a lot of money, but yeah, I'm thinking of, again, from T-Mobile's perspective, they need a fiber provider to survive.
That's the thing, though. They need it.
They need a partner.
Comcast doesn't. That's the difference.
They need a partner.
I just think that's why mergers happen. Somebody
But
needs
no,
something, and somebody has something.
Yeah, but
mergers happen.
they're not buying a $300 billion company.
First off, I can't load up the one article because it says it's subscriber only that you sent me, just so you know. But secondarily, no, mergers happen when both companies have a reason for it. If one has no intention at all, zero reason to want to do it, then it doesn't happen. And Comcast, you have not demonstrated the reason for why Comcast would want to merge with T-Mobile to me. And that's the reason why it wouldn't happen.
They were actually thinking about getting into wireless at that point.
That was literally 6 years ago at this point, and
Why?
that was prior to mind you, that was prior to the in-depth agreement that's now been renewed with Verizon for their Xfinity Mobile product.
Okay, but why can't Comcast get into the wireless business in the near future?
Because their focus is the metro space, and it is more profitable for them to not be tied to just one and be able to offer fiber to all three than it is for them to do it themselves. Residential customers, people get so focused on residential customers, but in all sincerity, and I hate to say this, but honestly, we don't fucking matter. We are a drop in the bucket compared to the metro market and enterprise market as far as like actual revenue and profitability. And Comcast, its whole MO has always been about profit margins and profitability and not taking on debt. Every time a merger happened with Comcast, they've always done it with free cash flow in hands or some form of stock exchange. True. They never took on debt.
That's true. Okay, let me ask you. Let me simplify it for you. You really think T-Mobile is going to survive from 6G?
All they got to do is stop paying your little dividend, and they can buy T-Mobile in a heartbeat.
Do you think T-Mobile US is going to survive in the 6G let's say like 2025, 2030 in the 6G realm without acquiring?
No, I don't. But that's not Comcast's problem. That's a T-Mobile problem.
Yeah,
Comcast doesn't give a shit.
Nor can T-Mobile.
I'm just trying to oh my gosh, I'm just trying to tell you guys that there's not going to be a freaking Charter or even a freaking Comcast, whoever else they're going to might buy, Lumen, whatever. I doubt Lumen, but there's not going to. There's not a cable company is going to lose their britches in the year 2025 or 2030, whatever, during that time. That's all I'm saying.
I don't get your argument though. Every time you're telling
because
me
they need their own fiber for 6G.
Yes, but that's a T-Mobile problem. How does that?
Of course, that's a T-Mobile.
But how does that make Comcast give a shit? Is what I'm trying to say. Like, why does Comcast give a shit if T-Mobile goes out of business? I don't see how this like plays into supporting your argument.
It's not about what Comcast gets, wants, has.
But it is, because you're telling me either one of two things happens. You're either telling me that Comcast for some reason undervalues themselves to allow them to be bought out by T-Mobile, or you're telling me Comcast wants to buy T-Mobile, which in both
I never said Comcast wants to buy T-Mobile. I never said that. I said T-Mobile might buy Comcast or Charter in the near future.
Please explain to me how that works.
Bruh, that okay, look. I can't make that sense. I can't make that make sense in any realm of the universe. Okay, because T-Mobile needed 12 banks to borrow $26 billion. Do you know how terrible that is? And you want them to buy the second or biggest cable operator in the country?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right.
But
and also, can I bring up one other thing that we're not even talking about? Even if magically fucking hell froze over and T-Mobile somehow got the money to do it, you mean to tell me that our government is going to be comfortable with a foreign-owned entity owning one of the largest fiber providers in the U.S.?
Dude, I synchronize your things. Yeah.
I need to smoke whatever you're smoking, Zero Cool, because I don't see the logic here.
They have to get fiber. All I'm saying is they have to get owned fiber. We talked about the own versus lease, right?
This is not real life. This is really not happening. T-Mobile has massive cash backed by Deutsche Telekom. Bro, Deutsche Telekom is begging for money right now.
Yeah, make you guys eat broke. I swear.
Like, they're begging for money. They're begging for investors. where are we coming up with these what is everybody stay off the weed?
Dude, this isn't weed, man. Weed doesn't do this type of thing to people.
Dude,
Sneed.
is it like a full moon tonight or something? What is going on right now?
Dude, we went into the Twilight Zone. We went into the
It is
Twilight
over.
Zone.
I
But-
mean, we're no longer eating the scallops. Now we're smoking them. What is going on, dog?
I said
We're
I had a lot of
snorting them.
scalps tonight, man.
No, but Zero Cool, I love you, man. I really do. I mean, I respect your opinion, and I'm not saying I can't be swayed otherwise, but from what I know, and you know I know a lot considering what we talked about behind the scenes, I just don't see it happening. Not Comcast at the very least. Maybe another cable provider, but it sure as hell
It's gonna
ain't
be Cox, bro. It's gonna be Cox.
Yeah, sure.
Communications.
Yeah, it could be Cox. It could be Spectrum. All I'm saying is one of those cable MVNOs won't be around. That's
Okay,
all I'm saying.
I can see Cox maybe because it's family owned and smaller. But can I say something which I said about Lumen? T-Mobile's still gonna have the same freaking problem because Cox is not a tier 1 ISP by anything close to the stretch. They have very little
I
fiber.
know. Yeah, it's true. They do. This is why I think it's most likely to be either Charter or Comcast. Think about it, guys.
Dude, the
They
only
have to,
cable
they have
provider
to
in
own
this
fiber somewhere.
the only cable provider in this country that could be even first off, Comcast is not a tier 1 ISP by the definition of what a tier 1 ISP is, but they have a shit ton of fiber deployed. Like by
this
mile.
is crazy. This is absolutely insane. I still can't wrap my mind around the fact that Zero Cool thinks that T-Mobile is going to buy Spectrum or Charter.
Guys, think about the cost of how
Comcast.
much backhaul is going to be in 6G.
Zero Cool.
I know.
Zero Cool. They won't install small cells. I'll just leave that there. And that's it.
No, you got to backtrack that crap because they are.
Listen, Zero Cool.
They are now.
I know this, but the problem that you're not answering or not grasping, and it's somehow going in one ear and out the other, is that T-Mobile's problems aren't Comcast problems or whoever they want to acquire. It's not their problem. Companies don't work out the goodwill of their heart.
Yo, I swear to God, you got Ricky now going cock-a-doodle-doo, bro. And how about this one? Look, forget that foaming at the mouth business. They're foaming at the couch, bro. This is ridiculous.
Where's T-Mobile going to own the fiber for 6G?
Right, but that's not anybody.
You got to buy it a cable operator so they can run coax to the 6G sites. That's nice.
They can run. Yeah,
listen,
that's the only way.
First off, Sneed, I know you hate cable providers, but let me just say something clearly
Dennis,
here.
let's stay friends, all right? Don't say too much, all right?
All right, let's just state the facts here real quick. No cable provider is going to be running coaxial cable to a cell site that's worth their salt.
That's never going to happen.
But anyway, focusing back on what's at hand here.
Where's T-Mobile going to own the fiber for 6G? Answer me that.
I don't care about that question because that's a T-Mobile problem.
You should. That's my point.
No, that's still a T-Mobile problem.
So
answer me the question.
Of course it is.
Answer me the question of what incentivizes a private company to give a shit.
Bruh, here's the answer. There is no T-Mobile. All right, that's the answer. It's not which cable ISP T-Mobile's going to buy. It's who's going to buy T-Mobile and then T-Mobile's gone.
I doubt that'll happen.
And
you think it's more
likely.
You think it's more likely that a $129 billion company is going to buy a $260 billion company than somebody buying T-Mobile?
Yes.
Okay. All right, man.
Dude, Zero Cool. Do you know what? Here's my prediction of what happens. You ready?
Yeah.
So 6G comes around the corner. T-Mobile still doesn't have fiber. As such, they end up being very low valued, like how Sprint was as a fire sale. And then if a cable provider wants to buy them, they will. But honestly, the person I would see buying it more likely would be some large mega tech company like an Amazon.
Like an Amazon or Google.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
There's
I need my moderators to ban Zero Cool.
Oh, come on.
I need him banned. I need him banned right away. All right, and then who else do I need banned? Who else is talking about mergers in the live chat? You're getting banned too. All right.
There's no scenario where T-Mobile acquires any company.
Where are they going to get their fiber owned?
Bro,
Again.
they barely had enough money to even buy Chantel.
Again, zero cool. I'm a really emphasize this here. T-Mobile's problems aren't problems to a private company, and private companies don't operate out of the
Yeah,
kindness
but
of
you're
their
not
heart.
answering my question though.
The only way T-Mobile gets fiber for their cell sites is if they do it themselves. That's the only way. And they're not going to. And as Steve
Right.
pointed out, they're going to go
Right.
out of business.
No, they're just
You
gonna
think-
sell.
Okay,
They're
so
not
we both know that they're here's why they're not going to build out their own fiber, because they would have done it already. Okay, number one. Again, that brings
He's
back
right.
to the question: where are they going to get their own fiber if they don't build it themselves?
They're not gonna get fiber. They're out.
Then if they don't get their own fiber, then yeah, they probably will be gone.
They're out.
But I don't think that'll happen. They're too proud.
Dude, the
Too
only
proud.
chance that T-Mobile realistic has if they don't deploy it themselves is, as Sneed brought up a lot earlier, is a very aggressive partnership. An exclusivity partnership, specifically with
do
a
you
tier
think
1
that they
ISP.
would yeah, sure. Okay. Do you
Telling
think
you,
that
man,
they would
it's
partner
cock,
with
bruh.
do you think
Cock.
that they would partner with Charter or Comcast?
I
Cock.
could see a partnership with Comcast. I could see that.
Good.
Who's
Okay.
desperate?
Great.
Who's desperate out of those two? Is either of them desperate?
T-Mobile.
No, I'm talking about the cable ISPs that you mentioned. Charter, Comcast. Which one is desperate? Or are both of them not desperate?
Neither.
So then why the hell are they going to want to take on the risk?
Because if you think about it, it's the way the deal is structured. It's more revenue for them to partner.
The only way Comcast would do it is if T-Mobile signed a legitimate exclusive contract, and
What's
only
Cox worth? Do they publicly trade?
They're private owned, but
I
the only
doubt-
way. Hold
I
on.
don't
Hold on. The only way it would work is if there was a partnership where Comcast has exclusive access to the backhaul, and the only one that would make sense for, aside from a true tier 1 ISP, is Comcast, because they're in 39 states.
Look, I doubt this would even happen because they're probably still being bid with Verizon. Okay.
Dennis, can you do me a favor? Can you find out how many customers Comcast has?
It's something like 28 million. Are you talking about able to service or actual customers?
Like residential and commercial customers. Cox has 6.5 million.
I think it's 28 million, but let me just double check.
Okay, so what's Comcast or Charter is 28.5 million.
I'm talking about Comcast, but let me just double check for you real quick. I'm going on Statista.
Okay, so you got Comcast, and what's their market cap?
Their market cap is
It was like what, 229 billion?
it is 228 billion.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's how I'm going to calculate this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they have 5 times more customers than Cox. 5 times. So that means we can assume maybe Cox has 1/5 of the market cap. Okay, so let's just estimate that. All right, I got Cox at like 40 billion as a market cap. 40 billion. That's something that T-Mobile could do that would instantly give them infrastructure.
You said Cox?
Yes, Cox.
What about Charter?
What Charter's as big as Comcast almost. Aren't they? Aren't they like
Yeah, they're
two-thirds
equal.
the size?
They're roughly the same size. In
Oh, they're
fact,
roughly the same. Damn.
Yeah, they are kind of, yeah.
but the only difference is that Comcast has a higher market cap, and that's due to their other ancillary assets like NBC Universal and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Comcast is actually doing light speeds above
Cox is the
Charter.
only possibility that makes any sense, and honestly, even that's still a reach.
Well, I'm still right then. So cable operator be going away.
Whoa.
You still owe me a boatload of scallops, man.
Zero cool. I love you, man. I really do, man. I love that you bring these spicy takes that got us down this rabbit hole. But honestly, man, I might have lost money at the casinos, but I'd be willing to bet you my 401k savings account that T-Mobile does not acquire Comcast, Charter. I don't even see them acquiring Cox.
Yeah, but that's the most likely out of all 3 scenarios.
That's true, yeah. Cox would be the most likely. It just goes back to their
Bro,
needs.
Cox,
think about it.
think
Cox
about the
ain't doing
relationship.
nothing.
Think
Cox
about
is
the
doing nothing,
relationship.
dog.
Think about the relationship that Cox has with T-Mobile. They were
Yeah,
the
it's
ones that
complete shit.
right. So why would Cox want to fucking sell out the T-Mobile?
No.
Bro, this is if they sell
Money
out, there
talks.
is no relationship.
All right.
Also, Sneed on a side note, it's 6.5 million. That's how many subscriber residential and commercial customers Cox has.
Yeah, I got that. Whatever.
I'm gonna go to the bar after this.
Yeah. Enjoy your time, dog.
I
We're
need
gonna
some.
shut
I
down.
need some
We're
five.
shutting down the live stream, bro. I'm
I need
shutting
some
down the
5G
studio.
gin. I need some 5G gin. That's what I need.
Right, you got it,
Listen,
man.
man, I'm shutting down the studio, man. You guys are done, man. This is crazy. We're done like dinner. We out this piece. So before we go, thank you to Dennis. Thank you to Zero Cool. Happy belated. Or wait, did it even happen yet?
No, it's Sunday.
Sunday. Okay, so we'll do a special stream or whatever. We'll kick it and stuff. We'll wish you the happy birthday and all that.
Thanks, man.
You're the best, bro. Thank you for coming on and hanging out, Dennis. Same to you. Big shout out to Moose. We had the Bearded Dragon on earlier too, so big shout out to them. Thanks for coming on. Everybody that offered super chats, I can't see them right now, but thank you so much for donating and supporting the SMT and the channel. Big shout out to my moderators, hashtag Mod Squad, hashtag 2Live Crew, hashtag Replay Crew, hashtag Ravioli Gang for those of you eating dinner or snacking while watching this frickin' 3.5 hour live stream. This is ridiculous.
Wait, Sneed, before you end this stream, there's one thing I want to bring up because I want you to do this. Stetson and I recently started a new segment for the podcast where people can call into the show and we'll answer their voicemail questions.
Mhm.
Sneed, you know you got to be one of the people that calls.
All right, I'll call you on the next live stream. I got you, bro. I got to keep it PG-13.
That'd be ideal. Yes.
All right, I got you, bro. That's fine. I could be a good boy for like 30 seconds. I got you.
30 seconds.
All right. Thanks to everybody. Please do like this video, share it, subscribe for more if this is your first time here. Turn on the bell notifications. Never miss an upload. Description box has everything going on with the channel. My Patreon page. Support us. Get early access to content, exclusives not found anywhere else. More live streams like this. Discounts and promos on Los Mobile. Best service you can get, highest priority with the best value on the best plans on the best carriers. And my email and Twitter handle are there as well. Thanks for watching. We out this piece.
Deuces.